Chapter 1194. In the Army Commander's office in Black Star Palace, Lodhair's remote projection stood in the middle of the room. Han Shao walked around him, sizing him up and sighing from time to time. "Young man, although you've successfully escaped this time, don't be too happy. I still have to settle the score with you. What instructions do you have?" Lodhair accepted the lecture calmly. Han Shao stood in front of Lodhair, stood with his hands behind his back, and reprimanded him. "Although the operation was successful, it was your own decision after all, so I had to help you deal with the aftermath. Those who didn't know would think you were the boss. You should have asked for my permission before taking action on such a huge matter, got it?" "Definitely next time." Lodhair was a man of few words. Han Shao snorted, paused, and said, "The impact of this assassination is huge. The Modo civilization has given up on the flickering war to deal with internal affairs, so they won't let this go easily. Therefore, all the activities of the Assassin Society will be temporarily suspended. Go into hiding and wait until this is over before I allow you to come out again." "How long do I have to wait?" "A few decades," Han Shao said. "You have to make good use of this time to train." "Okay." Lodhair did not complain and agreed calmly. It just so happened that the huge impact of this assassination gave him a new understanding, and he wanted to digest this experience in peace. Assassinating the leader of an advanced civilization was undoubtedly a legendary event, bringing him subtle changes. It was like some kind of promotion opportunity, increasing the possibility of him reaching the beyond grade A level. However, Lodhair did not have an interface, so he could not know all of this clearly. He only had a vague feeling. After giving some more instructions, Han Shao ended the communication. His purposefully serious face relaxed, and he smiled. This time, Lodhair had acted first and reported later, which gave him quite a fright. However, the result was very good. As the Modo civilization compromised and withdrew their troops, the second request of Kundi race leader's last wish was displayed as completed in gold. If not for Lodhair's assassination, there would not have been such a huge change in the upper echelons of Modo. If that happened, he would have had to spend more effort and pay a higher price to defeat Modo. Furthermore, the chain of chaos caused by the leader's assassination was also included in the mission progress, which dealt a heavy blow to Modo. Although Lodhair acted on his own initiative this time, the results were still reliable. Han Shao had always thought highly of Lodhair. In his eyes, Lodhair had the potential to become a beyond grade A super, and he had much more room to nurture than someone like Hardaway. Freezing the actions of the Assassin Society would allow Lodhair to have more time to explore the opportunity to advance. Putting away his thoughts, Han Shao opened the mission list on the interface and looked at the two golden missions. Escape and a Kundi leader's last wish were both unlockable. He had already completed one of the two mission requirements for the latter. The enemy, proof of leadership, and Kundi wrath could now be extracted. Han Shao thought about it and temporarily suppressed the desire to complete Kundi leader's last wish. This was because the first mission requirement was to provide protection to the Kundi race during the transformation period, which had not been completed yet. This Grade S mission was a complete mission, not a chain mission. Therefore, once he completed the mission, all the mission requirements would be calculated together. If he completed the mission now, he would not be able to obtain the reward for the first requirement. He really wanted the 4 political asset reward for the first requirement. Anyway, he had the initiative to complete the mission, and he could obtain the 3 abilities at any time, so he was not in a hurry. Let's get Lodhair's mission reward first. Escape completed. Minus 3,000 Modo civilization favorability. Current relationship. Mortal enemy, you have received 800 million EXP, 2 random rewards, and milestone. The Civilization Leader Assassin. Civilization Leader Assassin. Minus 10 favorability of all civilization leaders. Your declaration will be more likely to be taken seriously by the various civilizations. This milestone is for the wanted criminals of the evil faction, right? Han Zhao's eyelids twitched. To a wanted criminal, the favorability of a civilization leader was nothing. However, he was someone with status, and the favorability of a civilization leader was still useful. However, he did not care too much. The only advanced civilization leader that he had a good relationship with was Uranril. The other advanced civilization leaders were the President of Radiance and the Pope of Ethereal. All of them had negative favorability, but they still chose to cooperate with him. As long as the benefits were there, the influence of the favorability of a leader would be negligible. Furthermore, the value of the 10 favorability of a civilization leader could not be compared to the effect of the milestone at all. Although the range was not high, the range of the effect was extremely exaggerated. It covered an entire civilization and could weaken the resistance of all the armies of an enemy civilization. Han Xiao immediately realized that this ability could give the entire explored universe an innate advantage when facing the World Tree civilization. Compared to that, the loss of favorable impression points was nothing. This is what they mean by, "If I don't go to hell, who will? I'm so great." Han Xiao was almost touched by himself. He calmed himself down and continued to look at the ability extraction interface. You have received. Draw one of Lodhair's abilities, ability/talent. Tip: Lodhair's class is a pugilist. Some of his abilities do not match your class. Some of the abilities have been adjusted. Randomizing. Randomizing complete. Please select one from the following 5 options as the reward. 1. Concealment Master, a talent. Greatly reduce your presence in the eyes of others, greatly reduce the chances of enemies discovering you, and greatly reduce the clues left behind during your activities. You can easily find all the elements in an area that could expose you, including but not limited to all kinds of surveillance devices and detection spells. 2. Assassination Mark, ability. Mark a target. Your next attack on the target will increase damage by %, critical rate by 45%, and critical damage by 100%. Cost: 150 energy. Cooldown: 48. 3. Lethal Strike. Ability. When your next attack successfully hits the target, immediately perform an instant death judgment. The judgment basis is the target's HP, YND, instant death resistance, LUK, and the level difference between the two sides. If the judgment passes, the target will die immediately. If the judgment fails, an additional 280% damage will be dealt. Cost: 500 energy. Cooldown: 1200s. 4. The Way of the Assassin, Understanding. Ability. Inject energy into the next attack, accumulating an additional attack bonus. 10 energy conversion, 1% attack bonus, up to a maximum of 300% attack bonus. Cooldown: 150s. Wow! This young man. Han Zhao's eyes lit up. What is a master assassin? This is a master assassin. All these years, Lodhair was not around, so Han Xiao had not looked at his interface for a long time. He still remembered that among the 5 options, other than the second one, the other 4 were abilities that Lodhair did not have back then. Looks like this kid has not been idle for the past 20 years. He has learned quite a few new skills. Han Xiao was pleasantly surprised. With such a strong learning ability, he felt that he could compete with Nero. He had really picked up a treasure. After browsing through it carefully, he would not choose the second or third option. Although the instant death judgment of death in one hit was quite tempting, Han Xiao eliminated this ability without hesitation when he saw that there was a luck attribute in the judgment. Even his nickname had the word black in it, so how could he not know? The fourth option, the Way of the Assassin, Understanding, was quite powerful, but after some consideration, Han Xiao also eliminated it. This ability could only provide an additional bonus for the next attack. Mechanics played with fire coverage and attack frequency was the way to go. Although the Iron Head Doll charge that he had obtained from Ing could be used together with this ability, the path it took was too different, and there were not many opportunities to use it. Han Xiao was mainly hesitating between the first and the fifth option. Stealth Master was a functional talent that greatly strengthened one's stealth ability. It would be of great use in espionage operations, hiding behind enemy lines, stealing intelligence, and so on. Although it would not increase one's combat strength, it would provide another type of support. However, the bonus from "O Fearless Heart" was too great. This was not a single attack bonus but a passive ability. Any attack from him and his mechanical army would be able to enjoy the bonus effect of this talent. Furthermore, it was not an external bonus but an increase in basic attack. This meant that the percentage increase could be directly used to increase the actual damage dealt. Right now, those who are qualified to be my opponents are all peak beyond grade as. This talent is most suitable for people of my level. Han Xiaoxin's emotions surged. Fearless Heart would become stronger when facing a strong opponent. However, to Lodhair, the buffs from the third level and above were useless because it was impossible for him to defeat a Beyond Grade A with his current strength. Only a Beyond Grade A could fully utilize the power of this talent. You have received the talent, Fearless Heart. Feels good. Han Xiao exhaled. He felt a warm current being released from his brain and quickly spread throughout his body. After tasting it for a while, his expression suddenly became strange. He suddenly realized something. This talent lived up to its name and brought him a strong sense of confidence. Han Xiao felt that the respect he had for the strong instantly disappeared by more than half, replaced by disdain. Manison? Crispy skin, kill him. 3 universal civilizations? Stinky brother, kill him. World Tree civilization? What the hell, kill him. He wanted to kill whoever came to his mind. His heart was filled with the fearlessness of "I'm second in line to the heavens and I won't submit to anyone." He had the illusion that he could go through everything recklessly. He quickly suppressed his emotions and took a few deep breaths. Only then did he calm down and come to a realization. No wonder Lodhair dared to assassinate the Moto 3 kings. So, it's the side effect of this talent. Case solved, Han Xiao rolled his eyes. What fearless heart? Bullsh *T, it's clearly the reckless heart. Chapter 1195. Fearless Heart was undoubtedly a semi-molding talent. To the players, the bonuses from the second level and above could only be seen but not touched. The only practical use was the 15% increase when dealing with Calamity grade. The reward of this ability draw was a pleasant surprise. Han Xiao admired the changed attributes for a while before closing the interface and thinking about his future actions. Moto has been eliminated, and the second requirement of the Kundi race mission is completed. As long as Moto doesn't provoke me in the future, I don't need to fight with them anymore. Once they retreat, my excuse to participate in the flickering war is gone. I have to leave this stage temporarily. The army players might have an opinion, but luckily, it's at the end of the version, so it won't affect me much. Han Xiao thought to himself. Without an opponent like Moto, the Black Star Corps had no reason to continue participating in the flickering war. In that case, the army players would have to leave this main storyline. If this happened in the early or middle stages of the version, this would cause an uproar among the army players. A portion of the newcomers would most likely change factions in order to participate in the First World Server War. However, the timing of Moto's retreat was just right. It was now the end of the version, which meant that the players did not have much time to be active. Most of their energy was spent on preparing for the 4th Pro League and the upcoming World Server War. These were the last 2 big things they could do at the end of version 4.0. Under such circumstances, losing the main storyline of the flickering war would reduce the reaction of the players to a minimum. Furthermore, Han Shao had created a fake main storyline mission, which was at least a reward, reducing the loss of the army players not being able to participate in the real main storyline mission. Because of the existence of the Black Star Corps, the management and territory division of the various guild alliances in the flickering world were completely different from what Han Shao remembered. Furthermore, this change would continue in the future versions. Han Shao could not predict the future development of these guild alliances. Thinking about it, there was nothing important for him to do at the end of the version, so Han Shao heaved a sigh of relief. Everything that needs to be done is done. Next, I'll just sit on the sidelines like the other Beyond grade as and wait for the results of the flickering war. Han Shao made up his mind to keep a low profile for a period of time. He would go into seclusion to research technology and get through the final days of version 4.0 smoothly. Furthermore, the army had been in the limelight too much recently. Going too far was as bad as not going far enough. I'll just wait for the World Server War and the Pro League to squeeze out the players' savings to help me save enough money for my promotion. Han Shao smiled. There was no need for him to launch any promotional activities. These two activities were equivalent to a fully automated harvester. It was convenient, fast, and effortless. The Moto civilization did not announce the news of their retreat with great fanfare. On one hand, they announced the crusade against the foreign terrorist organizations in a high-profile manner, while on the other hand, they quietly withdrew batch after batch of expeditionary forces. After all, the Supercluster Alliance was an organization with common interests. Although Moto gave up on the flickering war, they could not just walk away. While the Moto Expeditionary Army was retreating, the other supercluster civilizations also took out some people to form a mixed fleet and took over this line of defense. The Supercluster Alliance was happy to see Moto leave. This way they could send away Black Star, the god of plague. In their eyes, it was a one-for-one exchange. Although the other supercluster civilizations were not polite with their words, they were still in the name of the alliance. They reached some agreements with Moto, and signed some preferential agreements as compensation for Moto's departure. With their main opponent gone, the Black Star Corps no longer continued to attack the Supercluster Alliance's line of defense and left the Ferdinand battle zone in batches. The fake mission of Black Star Corps Expedition Order was directly completed, bringing a wave of rich rewards to the army players. Although the rewards were set by Han Shao himself, and were slightly inferior to the real main storyline, it was not without its advantages. The real Flickering War main storyline could only be completed after the battle ended. In other words, the players would only be able to check the results when the next version was released. However, the faction main storyline mission that Han Shao created could be obtained by the players now. This reward would allow the army players to have more resources to level up their skills, purchase equipment, and increase their strength. The most obvious benefit was that it would be beneficial for the army players to participate in the World Server War and the Pro League. Just as Han Shao expected, leaving the main storyline early did not bother the army players. If the war against Moto continued, this incident would make it very difficult for the army to order the players around. Now, the players could take a break and focus on the World Server War. Planet Milton was a desolate planet located in the outer ring of the Emerald Star Cluster. Over the past few months, batches of fleets with the symbols of different guild alliances had arrived and built bases, fortresses, and lines of defense on the planet. Many of these guild alliances were enemies, but they tacitly ignored each other and built their own strongholds, not attacking each other. The reason for this was one of the rules stated in the invitation to the war. Before the war started, all the professional guilds and player alliances that came to Planet Milton could build their own strongholds and fortresses. There was no limit to the number of strongholds, and they could not officially attack each other. Those who violated the rules would be kicked out of this battle. This was similar to the protection period, a preparation period for all the participating guild alliances and giving all the players enough time to travel. Therefore, over the past few months, these guilds had mobilized batches of spaceships, delivered countless materials, and built a large number of temporary strongholds. The stronghold locations were not randomly chosen. Some guild alliances had established offensive and defensive alliance agreements, and their strongholds were basically next to each other, helping each other out. There was a rule that the war could not be started in advance, and snatching the stronghold locations was not allowed. It could only be first come, first served. Therefore, the preparation period of the stronghold construction was already an open struggle. Setting up strongholds was like playing chess. Not only did they have to connect their own strongholds, but they also had to set up their positions in advance to destroy the enemy's stronghold formation. They had to constantly arrange their troops and counter each other's move. Now, about 70% of the players in the entire galaxy had come, and the quiet planet Milton became very lively. In the Yen Huang Alliance's base number 1, the upper echelons of China's 4 biggest guilds and many first-tier professional guilds gathered together. In the center of the room was a 3-dimensional virtual projection of planet Milton. The surface was divided into areas of different colors, representing the territories of the different guild alliances. The Yen Huang Alliance was a guild alliance led by the professional clubs of China, which basically included all the first-tier guilds. It could be seen as the representative of the Chinese players, and almost all of them were army players. The term army players was a general term. They were not an official guild alliance, and there were different factions within them. Some foreign players who joined the army in version 4.0 formed different guild alliances, and the same faction was the link, making these guild alliances natural allies. Under normal circumstances, these guild alliances could be seen as a whole, collectively known as the army players, but they still had to be separated in terms of guild wars. At this time, the many guild alliances on planet Milton could be roughly divided into 4 camps. One was the Black Star Corps faction led by the Yen Huang Alliance, the second was the Anti-Black Star Front led by the Galactic Business Alliance, the third was the 3 Universal Civilizations faction led by the September Meeting, and the fourth was the Scattered Forces. The mainstream was the other Beyond Grade A factions and the Neutral Faction Guild. They could be considered as scattered sand, fighting their own battles without a unified commander. As you can see, the Galactic Business Alliance, Northern Battlefront, 5C, and other forces have been targeting us. They've placed their strongholds around each of our strongholds, preventing us from expanding our bases. They obviously want to surround us as soon as the war starts. Morning Snow Twilight Frost stood beside the 3-dimensional projection of the planet, gesturing with his fingers. He was the president of the official guild of the Dynasty Club, as well as the first leader of the Yen Huang Alliance. Hey, these foreigners are playing Go here? Don't they know who's the ancestor of Go? The president of the Temple of God, Jupiter, crossed his legs and said with disdain. Our allies are not to be trifled with. Some of them are in position in advance, making it impossible for the enemy to surround us. Some of them are in strategic locations, so it's not that easy for the enemy to attack us, the president of the Long Sky Guild, Jade Green Sky, said with a deep voice. The guild alliances of the Black Star Corps faction had reached an agreement, and the strongest guild, the Yen Huang Alliance, would fight together. In addition to the army, the Yen Huang Alliance had additional helpers, which were the enemies of the Galactic Business Alliance and other forces. The enemy of the enemy was not necessarily a friend, but at least there was room for cooperation. In terms of materials, fleets, and weapons, we have the advantage. The evolution badges purchased in bulk have also been distributed, and nearly 200 formation breakers have been formed. Each team has 800 people, and as long as they attack the stronghold, their destructive power is comparable to a husky demolishing a house. Together with the airstrikes of the warships, they can smash the enemy's head. A guild president waved his fist excitedly. This battle allowed the use of warships and various war machines, but the use of Star Destroyer weapons was prohibited. Moreover, the weapons used had to be bought by the guild. This battle was purely a competition between players, and players were explicitly prohibited from asking NPCs for help. The guild alliances took the lead in organizing this battle to create publicity. The national war was in line with the interests of the major clubs. As long as they could perform well in this battle, or even become the final winner, then the guild could attract more ordinary players to join, increase their popularity, and earn traffic. This was where the interests of the professional clubs lay. As for the victory conditions, they were very simple and crude. There were mainly two types. One was to eliminate all the enemy strongholds on planet Milton. After the battle, the guild alliances were still allowed to continue building strongholds, but that was not the protection period, and others could attack at will. The second was to kill all the resurrection times of the enemy guild members in a cycle. The players' resurrection times were limited to a maximum of 10 times in 6 days. In this kind of super intense battle involving tens of millions of players, death would become extremely fast. Morning Snow Twilight Frost nodded, turned to the many professional players who were listening and asked, "How's the situation with your challenge?" The leader, King Admiral, said lazily, "We won more than we lost. I forgot the specific result." At this time, Pork Bun, who was sitting at the side, immediately spoke up, gave a thumbs up, and laughed. "It's okay, I remember. Now we have a total of 3,488 wins and 1,142 losses. The winning rate is about 75%. It's very fierce." The rules of the battle were that the guilds were not allowed to start a war in advance during the protection period. However, with so many players gathered here, there were naturally many who were restless. There were no restrictions on individual battles, and players could be seen PK everywhere in the wild. Therefore, the various guild alliances sent out a large number of PK experts to challenge the experts of the other guild. It was like a one-on-one battle in ancient times. If they won, they could destroy the morale of the other party. These results needed to be publicized to increase the fame of their guilds, so they needed a professional team of reporters. Pork Bun, who had already become a celebrity, was temporarily hired by the Golden Alliance as the chief reporter, leading the entire Battlefield reporter team and specifically responsible for writing the Golden Alliance's battle report. A country war of such a scale allowed players from all sorts of fields to participate. PK experts, logistics players, management personnel, reporters, and so on all had things to do. They all had their own roles, and it was an unprecedented occasion. As the date of the war approached, the atmosphere on planet Milton became more and more tense. This battle was not only watched by the players but also by the various factions, paying attention to this internal war among the immortals. The three universal civilizations, the supercluster civilizations, and other organizations more or less learned some information from the players. Although they were surprised by the special hostility between different groups of immortals, they tacitly did not disturb them. They only observed and silently recorded the characteristics of the immortals. If the Black Star Corps won this war, it would also be beneficial to Han Shao, increasing the attraction of the new players to the faction. However, he had no intention of interfering. He did not want to ruin this iconic event that would definitely be recorded in the Galaxy Chronicles. He only wanted to watch the show at home with popcorn. Time passed day by day. Under the eyes of everyone, the day of the national war finally arrived. Chapter 1196. The major guild alliances had built a large number of strongholds on planet Milton, but they all had a main base in name. Generally, it was the first stronghold to be built, and the rules were the same as other bases. It did not have any special meaning, but to the players it was a symbol, similar to the existence of a main city. Dragon Hill was a hilly area surrounding the Yen Huang Alliance's main base. It was vast and originally had no name, but the Yen Huang Alliance named it after occupying it. On the day of the war, hundreds and thousands of battlefields of various sizes appeared on planet Milton. They were basically conflict zones between strongholds, and the most eye-catching one was Dragon Hill. The reason was that the guild alliances on the anti-Black Star front had placed their main forces there, intending to take advantage of the encirclement to destroy the Yen Huang Alliance's main base on the first day of the war. The Yen Huang Alliance did not show any weakness. They also placed their main forces there, and were fully prepared to fight a tough battle. At this moment, close to 10 million players from both factions were gathered at Dragon Hill, rubbing their fists and rubbing their palms, ready to take action. The large-scale military formation turned the hills into a colorful sea. The player troops were constantly adjusting their positions, and the scene was like rolling wave. It was a daunting sight. The chaotic colors came from the troops on the anti-Black Star front, and the equipment on them was different. The Yen Huang Alliance's troops wore army standard mechanical suits, which were black and silver. They were very neat, and their appearance was the difference between a mixed army and a regular army. The forces of the Galactic Business Alliance and other guilds were arranged in the east, south, and northwest, ready to attack from three sides. The Yen Huang Alliance's troops were in a circular formation, surrounding and protecting the main base. There was a wide buffer zone between the two armies, like the boundary between the Chu River and the Han River. In the combat monitoring room of the main base, the three-dimensional satellite map of the battlefield was suspended in the middle of the room. Morning Snow Twilight Frost, who was the chief commander of the battle, stared at the map, constantly issuing orders. The dozen or so strategists around him occasionally gave suggestions, and the group of assistants next to him were responsible for passing the orders to the subordinate commanders. The scale of the battlefield was huge, and large army battles were definitely the main means of combat. Rushing up in a wave would definitely be a suicide mission, so the command system was especially important. In order to prevent electromagnetic interference, virtual interference, and other factors from causing the frontline troops to be unable to receive orders, both sides unanimously chose the chat channel on the panel as the channel to issue orders and maintain communication. The chief commander planned the overall situation and was responsible for analyzing the situation with the military advisor group. The orders were sent point to point by the heralds in the command room. The higher-level commanders would adjust the specific tactics according to the instructions and the situation at the front line and send them to the middle-level commanders under their command. The intermediate commander relayed the orders to the basic squad leader under him through the team channel. Finally, the basic squad leader at the front line directly shouted in the team channel and led the members to carry out the tactical orders. The command system was divided into different levels. There were more than 100,000 commanders on both sides, and the majority of them were the bottom-level captains. This set of procedures seemed cumbersome, but because the chat channel was not restricted by distance and everyone had their own duties, the whole process was completed very quickly. If all the troops were to be treated as a body, then the commander and the higher-ups would be the brain, responsible for giving orders, while the middle-level and basic-level commanders would be the neural network, responsible for making the body move according to the instructions of the brain. Such a neural network was quite sensitive, and it gave the body a remarkable reflexes. The arrangements are basically done. How much time do we have before the battle starts? Chao Shui Twilight Frost issued a series of orders and watched as his troops began to adjust their positions on the real-time map. He sighed softly and turned to look at Jade Green Sky, who was the military advisor group. 6 minutes and 11 seconds. It's about time. Inform all troops to preheat their weapons. Raise your shields at the base and at the front line. In 3 minutes, let the mages of the enchantment school cast their buff. Those who have hormones and strengthening potions, take them. The order was quickly issued. A thick light blue energy shield rose around them and enveloped the main base. The mages who specialized in defense at the front line quickly began to cast shields and buff spells on the surrounding troop. The martial artists, who were responsible for charging at the front line, also began to inject hormones and take potions. These buffs had a time limit, and they could only maximize the benefits by holding back the start of the battle. The people on the anti-Black Star front did the same. For a moment, both sides were filled with colorful lights, as if they were competing in setting off fireworks. The last 3 minutes felt like years. All the players present were excited and nervous. They held their breaths, and the silent battlefield was filled with a somber atmosphere. The number of seconds increased bit by bit, and when it reached the peak, it suddenly returned to 0. Go! At this moment, the ground suddenly shook. The battlefield that was quiet not long ago was instantly filled with shouts and screams, and the battle erupted. The two motionless seas suddenly transformed into roaring tsunamis, rumbling as they swept out, covering the mountains and plains as far as the eye could see. Their imposing manner was magnificent, and they pressed forward courageously. In an instant, dense energy beams formed a crisscrossing net of light in the buffer zone. Batches of players collapsed on the path of charging, enduring the long-range attacks of the enemy. The black and the mottled torrents quickly approached and collided. Boom, 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 boom. A series of explosions left cracks and deep craters on the ground. The Dragon Hill was instantly shattered into pieces. The vanguard troops of both sides fell like wheat being cut. In the blink of an eye, countless mechanical soldiers, pugilists, and melee esper players died on the spot. It was extremely tragic. This was not a stage for individuals. No matter how strong a player was, as long as they were separated from the main force, they would basically be insta-killed. There was no room for maneuvering, and the only choice was to stick to their roles and stick together. Area C5 and D2 quickly eliminate the psychic troops. Their AoE attacks are too strong, and their shields are almost at the warning line. Defense school mages repeatedly cast arcane protection and resistance on the pugilists. Fire mages, poison mages, and lightning mages throw fireworks at them. Ground mages set up trap. Don't blindly follow the attacks. Summoners quickly pull the pets. Where are the mages in Area B2? We missed them, quickly control them. Area A1, A4, B2, B6, C1, and D1 mechanics, quickly dismantle the trap. Area D9's turrets are damaged, quickly go and fix them. Army style and mechanical pugilists continue to charge. Cannon mages don't stop attacking. Focus on the psychics and mages. Virtual branch mechanics deal with the enemy's cannon ship. Armed and energy branch mechanics use the heavy weapons. Continue to bombard the enemy's pugilists. Psychics focus on insta-killing the enemy's mechanic. Save your mana. Holy sh*t nice. A bunch of enemies are dying. Those who are not melee espers don't charge. Just stay behind and attack. After you burn your mana bar, retreat and replenish your mana. King said, don't charge. Being cannon fodder is the job of pugilists. Are you trying to steal MP? Pugilists in Area C2, slow down. If you revive, go back and hold the line. What are you waiting for? The battle instantly reached its climax. The chat channel was filled with passion, and the commanders of all levels were shouting until their necks were red. The players of the 5 classes had their own roles. Psychics were responsible for AoE and applying mental debuffs, espers were responsible for different intelligence based on their own abilities, and mages were responsible for buffing, melee, ranged, and so on according to the school they majored in. The most miserable ones were the pugilists. They could only charge at the front and be cannon fodder, using their bodies to hold the line. As the saying went, every dog has its day. The stronger the pugilists were in the early stages, the weaker they were now. After all, the pugilists were a civilian class. The advantage was that they were easy to learn, and they were not bad in one-on-one battles. However, on such a large battlefield, everyone wanted to kill the pugilists. They all wanted to clear out the resurrection count of the pugilists so that the enemy would lose their line of defense. In such a situation, the death rate of the pugilists was much higher than the other four classes. Even the cool facade was useless. It was simply a competition to see whose death was more flashy. Moreover, the pugilists did not have any side jobs. Even if they were to carry bricks, no one would want them. The efficiency was even worse than the various kinds of construction machinery. At this moment, the thoughts that appeared in the minds of the pugilists were shockingly similar. Damn it, how can this class be played? However, the mechanics, who were weak in the early stages, shone brightly in the battle. They were known as the busiest class on the battlefield. They were able to hold the line, deal damage, kill at a single point, kill at a single point, kill at a single point, and kill at a single point. Because of the strategic importance of the mechanics, the Yen-Huang alliance had an advantage. Because of the faction benefits, the most elite mechanics in the player group were in the Black Star Corps. They were basically all members of the Yen-Huang alliance. The troops of the two sides fought in three directions. The Black and the motley army intersected, killing each other endlessly. As the battle went on, the situation gradually changed. The Yen-Huang alliance had a slight advantage, and was gradually expanding their advantage. The high-end professional players all had the treatment of the club's resources, so the difference was not too obvious. However, in terms of the overall strength of the players, the Yen-Huang alliance had pulled away from the anti-Black Star battlefront. The Black Star Corps had long unified the Chinese players, saving the players from wasting resources by constantly changing factions. Furthermore, they would also give out faction benefits from time to time. Their development was more planned, completely surpassing the wild players who mixed in with different factions in the previous three versions. After 3 to 4 versions, the Yen-Huang alliance's players as a whole were clearly better in terms of skills and equipment. Furthermore, Han Zhao's fake main storyline ending in advance gave the army players an extra sum of money and experience. 1 or 2 people would not be able to see much, but in a battlefield like this where there were tens of millions of players, many little drops made a mickle, and their advantage increased. The death count is out. In the command room of the main base, Morning Snow Twilight Frost, who was giving orders, received the statistics from the artificial intelligence, and his eyes instantly lit up. The enemy's average death count is 0. 742, and our side's is 0. 631. Beautiful. All the strategists present were overjoyed. The meaning of this data was the average death count of a single player. Although the difference was only 0.111, in a battlefield like this where there were tens of millions of players, it was equivalent to 500,000 deaths less than the enemy. We can only revive 10 times in 6 days, and if we use it up early, we'll be out. Today is the first day of the war, and the enemy's bottom line is estimated to be between 1.8 and 2.2. Their vanguard's death count is even higher than the overall average, reaching 1.2. They won't be able to hold on much longer. Morning Snow Twilight Frost narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Throw in 50 formation breaker, listen to my orders and charge." Because they were not fighting NPCs, both sides did not engage in large-scale suicide attack. Everyone could revive multiple times, and if they were not used well, they might suffer a loss. The Yen-Huang alliance had accumulated a large number of evolution badges when they were preparing for war. 50 formation breaker amounted to a total of 40,000 people, which was equivalent to an average death count of 0.01. Now that they had a huge advantage, they had the capital to charge. Not to kill the enemy, but to use the high tankiness and high melee bonuses of the aberrations to cut up the enemy's vanguard, allowing the DPS at the back to focus fire on them and disrupt the enemy's formation. The order was passed down, and a special force charged into the front lines under the protection of the left and right sides. With a flash of light, their bodies expanded, turning into aberrations one after another, ferociously charging into the enemy's formation. Like a hot knife cutting through butter, they were unstoppable. 40,000 monsters buffed with defense and buffs rampaged through the enemy's ranks, instantly splitting up areas. Groups of enemy pugilists were isolated, and were killed or crippled by the DPS the Yen-Huang alliance tossed over, dying on the spot. The violence of the evolution badges had long been recognized by all players. With 40,000 aberrations charging together, the command of the anti-Black Star front was disrupted for a moment. It took them quite some time to kill these aberrations, and the chaos they caused directly increased the average number of deaths on the anti-Black Star battlefront by 0.018. Around 100,000 lives were lost, and the gap was further widened. This was especially so for the pugilists. If this continues, we can win. The morale of the Yen-Huang alliance players at the front lines was greatly boosted, while the morale of the Galactic Business Alliance players was significantly lower. It was not so easy to turn the tables in a battle between large armies. As long as they had the upper hand, the situation would snowball. With the decline in morale and the rise in morale, the situation continued to develop in the Yen-Huang alliance's favor. Just as the Battle of Dragon Hill was in full swing, Han Xiao, who was far away in the Black Star Palace, was holding popcorn and a can of Coca-Cola, excitedly watching Pork Bun's broadcast on the forums. However, his focus was not on the battle situation. Wonderful, I used 40,000 evolution badges in one wave, and the subsequent recharges will bring me another sum of money. I can use it a few more times. Haha, another 100 mechanical troops were destroyed, and the repair fees are in hand. Han Xiao was jubilant, not feeling sorry for the Yen-Huang alliance's losses at all. He even wanted to laugh out loud. In his eyes, every wave of resources lost by the Yen-Huang alliance represented a new achievement. If it were not for the fact that faction benefits could not be given out randomly, he even wanted to sell the weapons to the anti-Black Star Guild alliance. War is still the most profitable. Han Xiao grinned. At this moment, he felt like a lousy producer, using all sorts of tricks to get resources from the players. Only by emptying the hard-earned assets of the players would they have the motivation to continue creating value. Chapter 1197. The Battle of Dragon Hill seemed to have become a signal. In the next 2 days, fire beacons were lit all over planet Milton. The players of the various guild alliances fought endlessly, and the battlefields changed from one place to another. There were hundreds of thousands of battlefields all over the strongholds at every moment. Planet Milton seemed to have been bombarded for 2 days in a row, and the surface was devastated by tens of millions of players. There were no other topics on the forums. There were basically only 2 kinds of posts. One was the enthusiastic greetings from the opposing players to each other's ancestors, and the other was the battle reports from the Galaxy Times and the various war reporters. Because there were too many battlefields, Han Xiao could not read all of them. He only paid attention to the Golden Alliance's results on the first day. After seeing that the Golden Alliance had won the Battle of Dragon Hill and made a good start, he did not follow closely. Basically, he only looked at the battle reports from Pork Bun and the Galaxy Times every few hours to understand the overall changes in the world server war. Overall, the Golden Alliance currently had the biggest advantage. The Galactic Business Alliance and the other guild alliances had suffered heavy losses on the first day of the battle, so they had obviously become much more cautious. They did not dare to act recklessly anymore and started to use dirty tactics to attack the various strongholds of the Golden Alliance. The Golden Alliance and the 3 Universal Civilizations battlefront led by the September meeting did not organize any large-scale battles in the past 2 days. At most, there were small skirmishes. The ones who had the most fun in the past 2 days were the neutral casual players. The neutral casual players had the most players. Many casual guilds formed temporary small alliances. Not only did they kill each other crazily, but there were also some fierce players who formed teams to attack the strongholds of the 3 major factions, such as the Black Star Corps. Most of them were repelled, but a small number of them succeeded in taking down some strongholds from the 3 mainstream factions. In similar activities, cleaning up the casual players was the first thing to do. The big fish would eat the small fish before killing each other to prevent others from sneaking up on them. However, the situation here was special. The intensity of the war was extremely high, and the resurrection count, which players usually did not care about, had become the most important strategic resource. The 3 main factions had the ability to eliminate any unaffiliated forces, but it was impossible for them to come out unscathed. The players were not afraid of death and would not give up resisting, so they would definitely cause them some losses. In their eyes, it was a complete waste to use their precious resurrection times on unaffiliated forces. They would not use battle to sustain battle, and their forces would only become more and more damaged. They would be at an innate disadvantage in battle. Furthermore, if they were to wipe out the scattered players on a large scale, there was an 80% chance that the scattered players would band together to resist. At that time, they might end up shooting themselves in the foot and be beaten up by the scattered players instead. Although there was no time limit in the war's rules, everyone had a tacit understanding that a victor had to be decided within 6 days. Otherwise, the respawn count would be refreshed, and the guild alliance would suffer a huge loss. After all, even if players could revive, their resources would decrease as the battle progressed. If another round of battles occurred, the guild alliance's treasury would suffer a massive loss. Moreover, ordinary players would not be willing to accept the death penalty too many times. In the exclusive workshop of the Black Star Palace, Han Xiao put away a freshly made king mechanical suit, opened the forum, and roughly browsed through today's battle report. Golden Alliance's 8-hour battle report. Victory rate continues to rise by pork bun beating dog. The Golden Alliance has conducted a total of 41 battles in the past 8 hours, including 4 million level battles, 11 500,000 level local battles, 22 100,000 level local battles, 4 small-scale team battles, and no 10 million level battles. Among them, they won 29 battles and lost 12 battles. Victory rate percent an increase of 3.16% compared to yesterday. The overall average death rate has increased from 2.375 to 2.814, continuing to lead the guild's average survival ranking. The gap between them and the second place continues to widen. Currently, the gap is 0.703. Victory at the Flying Stone Cliff, by Galaxy Times, Huaxia Region today. The Galactic Business Alliance and the Northern Battlefront's stronghold in the Haywood Valley was raided by the September Council and Denland. Due to the interference of the teleportation portal, the Galactic Business Alliance and the Northern Battlefront deployed troops nearby to reinforce the Haywood Valley stronghold. However, they were ambushed by the Golden Alliance when they passed by the Flying Stone Cliff and suffered heavy losses. It is reported that the Golden Alliance secretly sent a troop to log off here yesterday and used the strategy of going online to catch the enemy off guard and achieve a great victory with a loss ratio of less than 0.61. A daily drama by Yen Huang Alliance War Reporters. Today, another tragedy has occurred that was caused by external factors. A boss of the Gorhal Headshot cult bribed a high-level mage player in the Sith Empire's main stronghold. This mole secretly tampered with the magic circuit of the second material teleportation portal in the main base when his teammates were not paying attention and left a teleportation beacon. When the two guild alliances were fighting fiercely, the Gorhal Headshot cult used this beacon to send a fully armed troop into the enemy's stronghold, causing the Sith Empire to be wiped out on the spot. After that, This mole and the boss were blacklisted by all the major guilds and have been eliminated. Let us reiterate this once more. Outside the game, your mother will definitely raise the price of her groceries tonight. There were countless similar battle reports. Han Shao glanced through them happily and looked at which guild alliances had been eliminated today. He scrolled through the posts for about half an hour before exiting the forum. Beep beep beep. At this time, his communicator rang. It was the dynasty's exploration army marshal, Brother Terakov, whom he had not contacted for a long time. Oh, it's old Terakov. What's the matter? Han Shao accepted the call and asked with a smile. Have you been paying attention to the war between the immortals? Tarakov's tone was serious. I have a bunch of immortals under my command. How can I not be paying attention to it? Do you still need to test me like this? Did the dynasty's upper echelons send you here? Han Xiaoxin roughly guessed the other party's intentions. Terakov did not deny it and slowly said, What I want to ask is, how much do you know about the immortals? Han Shao rolled his eyes and asked, Be more specific. All right, the intelligence department and the dynasty's science department have never stopped observing the immortals. The earliest batch of immortals appeared in Blue Star and were basically recruited by you. You seem to have a deep understanding of them. We want to know, why do the immortals disappear from time to time? Why do they become stronger after disappearing on a large scale? Is there a limit to this improvement? Can they really be completely controlled? A series of questions were thrown at him, but Han Shao did not immediately reply. His eyes flickered as he felt the change in the attitude of the Red Empire. The three universal civilizations had always been researching the immortals, and now they finally came to ask him, the expert on the surface. It was because of the World Server War that they paid more attention to the immortals. The nickname Cancer of the Universe had been used for more than half of the version. The players had always been scattered and active in different events. Even in the Black Star Corps martial arts tournament, it was only a group battle. However, this time, the various organizations had truly witnessed a large-scale war that only the immortals participated in. The weapons and fleets were not exaggerated, and the scene was not as spectacular as a galactic war. Only the intensity of the battle between the supers was shocking. The immortals of different factions had fought before, but this time, it was especially terrifying. The advanced civilizations could still remain calm and only felt surprised. However, the smaller organizations could be said to be frightened. So, this is the battle between the Cancer of the Universe. We still underestimated the ferocity of these people. Thinking of the characteristics of the immortals in the past, the dynasty did not have the leisure to continue their research and found Han Shao, wanting to ask for more detailed information. I don't know that much. You guys probably already know what I know. Of course, Han Shao would not reveal anything. He casually said some information that could be observed by the various organizations. There was nothing special about it. You really only know this much? Terakov did not give up. What else? I just concluded some patterns earlier. I'm not an immortal, so how can I know everything? Han Shao laughed. That's true, Terakov nodded. In truth, the Red Empire had also suspected whether or not Black Star was an immortal a few decades ago. However, no one had been able to kill him, so they could not find out the truth. In the end, because Black Star would not disappear intermittently like the immortals, the dynasty dispelled this suspicion. After sending Terakov away, Han Shao stopped smiling, and his expression became serious. He turned off the interface, looked at the EXP bar, and estimated. With my current efficiency of harvesting EXP, I'll have enough EXP to complete my level 340 promotion before the start of the Pro League. I can use the evolution cube again. Han Shao frowned. As the strength of the players increased, the situation in the universe would become more turbulent. He could only deal with all the changes by reaching a higher level as soon as possible. At that time, No matter how the advanced civilizations reacted, he would be able to deal with them. The players of the Limitless Financial Group were also part of the World Server War and belonged to one of the large organizations in the neutral faction. Sorokin was also paying attention to this battle, but he was not just observing. He had other plans in his mind. This seems to be a good opportunity to attract the immortals. Sorokin's eyes sparkled. He had always been passionate about recruiting immortals. Although he did not know the truth about the players, Han Zhao's method had given him some inspiration. Sorokin had carefully studied the history of the Black Star Corps, especially the methods the Black Star Corps used to attract the immortals. He had found many patterns in the past. At this point, Sorokin felt that he had already learned all of Black Star's method. This time, with so many immortals fighting among themselves, it's a good opportunity for the Limitless Financial Group to become famous among the immortals. If the immortals of the Limitless Financial Group win in the end, they should be able to attract some immortals to join the financial group. Under normal circumstances, the immortals of the Limitless Financial Group would not have any advantage. If he wanted them to win, he would have to interfere. After all, he was not like the other Beyond Grade as who were affected by reputation. Even if news of a Beyond Grade A shamelessly interfering in a fight between Grade B supers spread, it would not affect his reputation. As a Beyond Grade A, even if he did not reveal his true strength, he would be able to determine the outcome of a battle of this level. Furthermore, his ability was extremely well hidden, and he believed that these Grade B immortals would not be able to discover anything. Looks like it's worth a try. Let's do it. Sorokin secretly made up his mind. His guess was actually not far from the truth, but he could not see the forums, so he lacked the most crucial information. He did not know the reason for the players fighting at all, nor did he know that NPCs were not allowed to interfere in the rules. The players of the Limitless Financial Group did not dare break the rules and invested a lot of resources to fight the national war, diligently maintaining their current good results. However, what they did not expect was that their own faction leader was preparing to take them all away. Chapter 1198. In Mount Huangjin, a large base was embedded in the belly of the mountain. Battleships and teams of mechanical guards hovered in the sky, and the defense was tight. This was the main base of the Apocalypse Foundation, the largest guild alliance of the Limitless Financial Group. 60 to 70% of the mountain had been transformed into mechanical defense facilities. They relied on the main base to constantly clean up the surrounding small strongholds and expand their territory. They had become one of the two major forces in this area. In the middle of the third night of the battle, the Mount Huangjin stronghold sent out 3 trump cards to attack the Hex-armed forces in the Wind Hunting Valley. This was another large guild alliance that occupied the area. The two sides had been competing for the overlord position in the area. The Hex-armed forces had detected the enemy attack early on and pulled out their troop. The two sides fought fiercely outside the Wind Hunting Valley. However, just as the fierce battle was in full swing, a guild alliance called the Reverse Crusade launched a surprise attack on the Mount Huangjin stronghold. They had planned it long ago and sent troops to ambush nearby a day and a half in advance. They also planted a secret resurrection point. Seeing the opportunity when the main forces of the two sides were fighting fiercely, they attacked the relatively empty base camp of the Apocalypse Foundation, intending to take advantage of the situation. The Apocalypse Foundation was in a disadvantageous situation of fighting on two fronts. They wanted to withdraw the troops that were attacking the Wind Hunting Valley, but the Hex-armed forces seemed to have expected the appearance of the Reverse Crusade and entangled the main force of the Apocalypse Foundation. Obviously, the ambush of the Reverse Crusade was related to them. The two sides may have reached some kind of strategic cooperation. At this moment, the Mount Huangjin stronghold had become a fierce battlefield. A large number of artillery ships and combat robots were fighting in the air. The sky was constantly exploding with fireworks, and the ground was full of players killing each other. Every second, a large number of people turned into light and disappeared. The trump cards of the Apocalypse Foundation were basically sent out. There were not many elites guarding the stronghold, and most of them were peripheral members. Facing the attack of the elites of the Reverse Crusade, the defense forces of the Mount Huanjin stronghold were defeated, and the battle line was constantly approaching the stronghold. Unfavorable battle reports were sent back to the main command room of the stronghold, making the leader of the Apocalypse Foundation, Sisyphus, anxious. No wonder the Hex armed forces deliberately provoked us this morning. They were trying to lure us into a fight. We fell into their trap. Impulsiveness is indeed the devil. Sisyphus was full of regret. He hurriedly contacted the vice president who led the crusade against the Hex armed forces in the chat channel. "Hurry up and come back to support us. Our home base is about to fall. Boss, we can't retreat. The Hex armed forces are too close. If we want to go back, all of us will have to die. This is our main force, and the average death count is already 14. If it goes up by one more point, we will be too passive. Furthermore, even if they do return, the warships and weapons they send out will all be seized by the enemy. Look at the situation we're in now. So what if we lose a little? Protecting our home is more important. No, the enemy is obviously prepared. If we all die, they will definitely take advantage of the situation to attack our hometown and join forces with the Reverse Crusade to attack." Hearing that, Sisyphus scratched his head in frustration. He had been caught off guard. Now that it was 2 against 1, the Apocalypse Foundation alone would not be able to hold on. He could only seek help from the other guild alliances that were also on the Limitless Financial Group's front. "I hope we can hold on until the reinforcements arrive. We're definitely going to suffer heavy losses this time." With a heavy heart, he turned his gaze back to the real-time battlefield projection. However, at this moment, he was stunned. What's going on? He hurriedly looked up at the commander and the members of the military advisor group and found that these people had the same shocked expression as if they had seen a ghost. The surveillance screen showed the front battlefield outside the Golden Mountain stronghold. One of the Reverse Crusade's suicide squads broke through the line of defense and arrived in front of a group of damage dealers. "Kill them!" Flames of various colors suddenly swelled. This suicide squad used their skills and was about to focus fire. However, at this moment, their movements stopped in unison. The light on their bodies suddenly disappeared, and all their skills were interrupted. They froze in place. Not only this suicide squad, but a large number of Reverse Crusade players also had the same situation. It was as if they had pressed the freeze button at the same time, causing their movements to suddenly stop, causing the troops to instantly disconnect and the lineup to tear apart. On the interface of these people, the same prompt popped up at the same time. "Sorokin, possessed, used mind shock on you. Determination passed. You are temporarily unable to control your body. Your skill has been forcibly interrupted. You have entered the mischief state." In an instant, the situation took a turn for the worse. Originally, the Reverse Crusade had seen the dawn of victory, but at this moment, they suddenly slid into the abyss. At this moment, only a F***CK could accurately express the emotions of all the players who had been hit. "You even called out a Beyond Grade A? Shameless. Is your Limitless Financial Group's guild unable to afford this?" This short stun instantly turned the situation around. The players of the Apocalypse Foundation did not stop. With a series of explosions, they took away a large number of Reverse Crusade players without any damage and took back the battle line. The players of the Apocalypse Foundation were also shocked, but it was not entirely because of the sudden stop of the Reverse Crusade. It was more because the players fighting on the front lines also received notifications on their interfaces. "Sorokin, possessed, used spirit encouragement on you. You have entered the spirit encouragement state. All attributes increased by 10%. Sorokin, possessed, used spirit encouragement on you. Your damage increased by 18%. Your defense increased by 12%. What's going on? Where did the bonus come from? Did someone use a character summon card? That's not right. Even if a character summon card is used, it won't change the user's name. The troops on the front lines could not understand, nor did they have time to think. They quickly took advantage of the moment when the enemy was hit to kill them all. Not long after, more than half of the Reverse Crusade troops died. Everyone originally thought that it was a hopeless situation, but they did not expect to deal with the fierce enemy so easily. Before Sisyphus could come back to his senses, the vice president shouted in the chat channel with a surprised tone, "What's the matter? President, we actually defeated the Hex armed forces. I don't know why, but their movements suddenly stopped." "It can't be?" Sisyphus quivered and quickly asked the commanders at all levels. Only then did he figure out what had just happened, and he was dumbfounded. "What's going on? Sorokin is here? But we didn't call him. Why did he take the initiative to join in the fun? Could it be that he saw that we were in danger, so he took the initiative to help?" Sisyphus' eyes widened. There was no joy on his face after a successful counterattack, only fear and anger. "If it were any other time, we might be moved, but now, what does it have to do with you? What the f***ck are you worrying about? You're going to kill us." The next day, look at the clattering of iron hooves trampling over thousands of miles of rivers and mountains. I'm standing at the heart of the storm, holding tightly, the sun and moon rotating. Han Shao hummed softly as he walked out of the bathroom. The towel was wrapped around his waist, revealing his strong and slender upper body. Water droplets slid on his firm skin, and the magic circuit on his chest was like a glowing dark blue tattoo, flickering with his breathing. Pinnacle beyond grade, as could basically never rest, but Han Technician had always valued the balance between work and rest. He had built 7 or 8 King mechanical suits in the past few days, and the results were remarkable, so he would not build it today. Without adjusting his body temperature to evaporate the water, Han Shao obediently dried his body, lay back on the bed, and habitually opened the forums, intending to have some fun. However, as soon as he entered the forums, his expression suddenly became strange. The Apocalypse Foundation violated the rules and invited a beyond grade A assistant? Isn't this one of the guild alliances under the Limitless Financial Group? Han Shao clicked on the post, only to see that the replies had already reached tens of millions, extremely exaggerated. The content of the post was the condemnation of the Apocalypse Foundation by the Reverse Crusade and Hex armed forces. After a day of fermentation, this matter had already set off a storm among the players. Countless players were filled with righteous indignation, accusing the Apocalypse Foundation of breaking the rules. "This is too much. We were about to win, but who would have thought that the Apocalypse Foundation would be such a sore loser? They actually invited the leader of their own faction and directly used this method to turn the tables. This is simply cheating. There are tons of videos and screenshots. Let's see how you explain this." "That's right. Yesterday, someone actually tried to clear the ground and said that this was the effect of the character summon card. Bullsh *T. Since when can a character summon card change the user's name? This kind of unfair behavior must be severely punished. I propose to cancel the qualification of the Apocalypse Foundation to participate in the battle. Since you can't afford to play, then don't play." The forums were basically filled with angry condemnation. Han Shao glanced around and saw that the Apocalypse Foundation had also posted a clarification post. "I'm the president of the Apocalypse Foundation. It's not what you think. We did not ask for Sorokin's help. He did it himself, and it has nothing to do with us. Everyone, please think about it. We knew the consequences of breaking the rules, so how could we deliberately violate them? Sisyphus explained a lot in the post, but in the face of the angry players, it was not convincing at all. Instead, it was mocked and ridiculed. Hee, keep making things up. So, when you ask for a beyond grade A's help, all you have to do is say that you were not the one who asked for it, and you can wash away your responsibility. What? Only you have a beyond grade A. Who are you looking down on? You want to play this game, right? Men, quickly go and invite the old ancestor Black Star. Most people did not believe this statement, but the players on the Limitless Financial Group's side believed it by about 60 to 70%. They were immediately worried. No way, is that dog Sorokin so troublesome? This is a trap. He's like a ticking time bomb. If it happens to us, won't we be disqualified too? Let me ask, is it too late to change factions now? Level 180 Psychic. All core skills above level 7. Please accept me. Sorokin's actions had completely frightened the players of the Limitless Financial Group. Some of them even wanted to change factions in order to continue participating in the national war, not daring to stay in this organization that could explode at any time. After reading the post, Han Xiao finally understood what was going on. This guild shouldn't be lying. All of this was most likely done by Sorokin on his own accord. As for his goal, I remember that he's always been passionate about recruiting players. Could it be that he concluded the pattern from my actions and wants to increase the attractiveness of his faction? After understanding the cause and effect, Han Xiao tried to guess Sorokin's logic and almost laughed out loud. So that's how it is. This guy thought that his actions were very secretive and only used some support-type mental abilities to make others think that it was the Limitless Financial Group's players who went berserk or used some special mental weapon. Under normal circumstances, it would not be so easy to link it to him, but the combat information has already sold you out, stinky little brother. Han Xiao secretly smiled. Little Sorrowless, oh little Sorrowless, you've shot yourself in the foot this time. You've used the wrong method. Originally, you wanted to farm reputation, but now it has the opposite effect. Instead, you've ruined your reputation among the players. The worst thing was that this guy could not see the forums, so he was still in the dark and did not know that he was being scolded by the players. This is the advantage of having poor information, Han Xiaoxin thought. Sorokin's actions would definitely lose some of the Limitless Financial Group's players. Just nice, when these players were feeling empty and lonely, he could use his thick chest to warm them up and recruit them into the army. No matter how many he recruited, it would be a profit. Sorokin, I didn't mean to snatch your leeks. This time, you're the one who delivered them to me, Han Xiao chuckled. This feeling of sitting at home and not doing anything, just watching the enemy play themselves to death, was really a little comfortable. Ever since he intervened yesterday, Sorokin had been paying attention to the subsequent developments. However, he did not see the situation he expected, and he could not help but feel puzzled. Logically speaking, the Apocalypse Foundation turning the tables with his help should have more or less caused the other immortals to be amazed by the strength of the Limitless Financial Group's camp. But why did these people not react? It was not until the next day that he saw the Apocalypse Foundation's reaction. It was not the pursuit of victory that he expected but the abandonment of the base, leaving the planet in a battleship, and withdrawing from the battlefield. Strange, what kind of reaction is this? In the office, Sorokin watched the live broadcast of the frontline news media, feeling a little incredulous. Just as he was feeling puzzled, Sorokin suddenly received a pop-up report from his artificial intelligence. With just a glance, his heart skipped a beat. The report was full of resignation notices from the immortals, and the number was still increasing rapidly. What's going on? Why are they withdrawing from the Limitless Financial Group? Sorokin was stunned. Suddenly thinking of something, he quickly turned to look at the interface of the news broadcast. On the screen, batches of immortals belonging to the Limitless Financial Group flew out of the stronghold and scattered in all directions. Some went to visit other neutral factions, but more went directly to the three mainstream factions, such as the Black Star Army faction. The rules did not restrict the players from changing factions on the spot, and the major guild alliances guaranteed the freedom of choice for the players. As long as there were no external factors, the rules allowed for the players to fight today and join tomorrow. The nature of the Limitless Financial Group was a galactic financial group. To the players, there was not much faction cohesion. Those who joined were all for the high benefits, so there was nothing to be reluctant about changing factions. And now, the First World Server War was destined to be recorded in the Galaxy Chronicles. If they missed this opportunity, they would not have another chance. In order to not be inexplicably disqualified, some of the Limitless Financial Group players did not hesitate to betray the faction on the spot. Seeing this scene, Sorokin was a little dumbfounded. The method I used, the principle is clearly the same as Black Star's, so why did it have the opposite effect? No, this is not how the script is written. Chapter 1199. The change in the Limitless Financial Group faction was just an interlude in the entire national war. After a portion of the players changed sides on the spot, the heat quickly subsided, and the various guild alliances continued to focus on fighting each other. The war progressed day by day, and a large number of players were eliminated every day. Because the number of revivals decreased, the surviving guild alliances became more and more cautious, not daring to act recklessly anymore. Coupled with the fact that many guilds had already been eliminated, the overall situation was not as intense as it had been in the first 2 days. Because the Golden Alliance had always been at the top of the leaderboard, their advantage was too great. On the 5th day, the Black Star Corps faction was jointly attacked by the anti-Black Star Battlefront, the three Universal Civilizations Battlefront, and a bunch of scattered guild alliances, resulting in the most tragic battle since the start of the war. Although the Golden Alliance had an advantage in terms of average strength and revivals, they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, after all, so they could not continue to maintain the excellent battle loss ratio. Their average death count jumped from 589 to 738. However, the advantage that the Golden Alliance had accumulated over the past few days was too strong. Even though their losses in this battle were not small, they still did not drop from the top of the leaderboard. Before this battle, only the Golden Alliance's death count did not exceed 6. The base number of the other guild alliances was too high. For example, the second place on the leaderboard was the September Council of the three Universal Civilizations Battlefront. After the bloody battle, their average death count rose from 671 to 768. Although they won the battle, their total value was still not as high as the Golden Alliance's. According to the analysis on the forums, the threshold of the average death count was 9. Exceeding this number meant that the troops had lost their combat power. Now, the various guild alliances were infinitely close to this number. On the 6th day, the forces that had not been eliminated did not want to start a war. They all seemed to be planning to survive this day to refresh their revival count. Planet Milton suddenly became much quieter, with only sporadic flames of war. However, at night, the planet suddenly became lively again. The various guild alliances began to fight crazily. They took action at this time to buy time. This was because a player who used up all his revivals in 6 days would be considered permanently eliminated. Even if he refreshed on the 6th day, he would not be qualified to participate in the war again. The guild alliances planned to use the troops with healthier revivals to eliminate the heavily injured with an average death count of 9. 0 on the 6th night, weakening the opponent's troops. This way, after the refresh in the morning, it would be equivalent to 0 losses. On the 6th night, it directly turned into a great battle royale. Countless players fled in all directions, only wanting to survive the night. Meanwhile, the players who were slightly healthier turned into hunters, chasing after the heavily injured with obscene smiles. Of course, the roles of hunter and prey could be switched. From time to time, a hunter would become the prey and join the fleeing team. Compared to the fierce and hot-blooded battles of the past few days, the sixth night seemed to have turned into a game of hide-and-seek. Amidst the horror, there was also a bit of joy. That night was the largest elimination wave since the start of the war. A total of 70% of the players had been sent away. On the morning of the seventh day, when the resurrection count refreshed, less than half of the Guild Alliance's forces remained. Meanwhile, the other independent powers were even worse off. Most of them only had a quarter to a fifth of their forces left. Their plan to end the war within 6 days had failed. However, the size of their forces had been reduced, and the amount of resources they needed to invest had also decreased. The various large guild alliances could only lead their remaining forces and fight for another 6 days. They were basically out of ammunition and food. In the third cycle, on the morning of the 13th day, there were only 6 guild alliances left on planet Milton. The Golden Alliance was one of them, and relatively speaking, it was also the force that had preserved its strength the best. However, all the players who had been eliminated did not leave. They still sat in their battleships and watched the battle in the outer space of planet Milton, placing bets on who would be the winner of the final circle. Because the margin for error had become even lower, everyone became more cautious. Under such circumstances, it became more and more difficult to eliminate the opponent's forces. As a result, the 6 guild alliances all chose to attack and win by eliminating the opponent's stronghold. After the first 2 cycles of war, the various guild alliances now did not have many troops left, causing the intensity of the battle to be far less than in the first cycle. At this time, another advantage of the Golden Alliance was greatly magnified, and that was the ability of the evolution badge. The aberrant body had strength far beyond the current level of players, but its shortcomings were also obvious. That was, it could not attack from afar and could only engage in close combat. Moreover, most of its skills were frozen. As a result, in large-scale army battles, the aberrant body's advantage could not be fully utilized. This was because the focus fire was too fierce, and the aberrant body could not hold on for too long. However, in small and medium-sized battles, the enemy's focus firepower would decrease, and the aberrant body's time on the field would increase, increasing the tactical effect of the aberrant body. At this point, the Golden Alliance no longer deliberately pursued the advantage of battle losses. It was not a loss to use the number of resurrections to destroy stronghold. They relied on the aberrant body's powerful attack power to attack strongholds one after another. On the 15th day, 2 guild alliances had been eliminated by them. On the 17th day, there were finally only 2 survivors left, namely the Golden Alliance and the Galactic Business Alliance. The 2 sides reached an agreement not to attack strongholds, but to fight head-on until there was no one left. They hoped that the First National War would end in a way that left no regret. The 2 sides decided to finish what they started, and the battlefield was chosen to be the Dragon Hill, which had now become the Dragon Canyon. The 2 sides fought from morning to night, and in the end, the Golden Alliance won with a narrow advantage, killing everyone in the Galactic Business Alliance. In the end, only less than 2,000 core players of the Chinese guilds were left on the field. The nation war came to an end with such a result. As soon as it ended, the forums were filled with the celebration of the Chinese players. Even the players who were eliminated politely sent congratulatory messages, congratulating the Yan-Huang Alliance for being the final winner of the First Nation War. The Galaxy Times and the reporters from all over the world also published reports. Especially the war reporters led by Bun Hit Dog, they were full of praises and praised the Yan-Huang Alliance from the start. They started from the era of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. It was so corny that even the Chinese players felt numb when they read it. The Galaxy Chronicles was updated in real time, naming the First National War as the Battle of Milton, and all the battles, big and small, were recorded in it. Because the chronicles were compiled by all players, such a huge project was not a problem at all. As long as everyone recorded the battles they had experienced, the entire process of the National War could be completely restored. After the National War ended, the players did not leave immediately. Many people reluctantly returned to Planet Milton to clean up the environment. They did not demolish the strongholds built by the various guilds, but instead used engineering machines to transform them into cities. Because it was rare for people from all sides to gather together, some players set up stalls, and soon others joined in. It was as if this place had become a trading area. Many PK players were itching to fight, and they looked for people to spar with. Planet Milton became lively again, and many players seemed to treat this place as a new main city. In the office of the Black Star Palace, Han Xiao closed the forum interface with a smile on his face. After more than half a month, it's finally over. It took much longer than in my previous life. He did not provide any help during the whole process, and he was quite happy to see the Yan-Huang alliance win. The Chinese players achieved a good result, proving that his efforts in the past 4 versions were fruitful. The First National War in his previous life had a far-reaching impact, and it was one of the symbols of the Galaxy Chronicles. The rules of the battlefield had been passed down and became a tradition recognized by the players. If there were any national wars in the future, these rules would be followed. The victory of the Yan-Huang alliance would definitely increase the attractiveness of the faction, which was equivalent to endless free advertising. In the future, when new players chose a faction, they would first consider the army, and if old players opened SMUF accounts, they would most likely join the Black Star Corps, which had huge potential benefits. Most importantly, the National War had been fought for so long, and it had brought him far more benefits than he expected. Han Xiao opened the interface and looked at the value of the EXP bar, and he could not help but smile. There are still about 2 months before the Pro League. I thought it would take a while to get enough EXP, but I didn't expect to get enough EXP this time. According to his calculations, he should have accumulated enough EXP to level up from level 331 to level 340, which was earlier than expected. A large portion of the EXP was contributed by the former Limitless Financial Group player who had changed his backer midway. Little sorrow, thank you for your help. Half of the military medal is yours. Han Xiaoxin was elated. Finally, he had accumulated enough EXP. Without any hesitation, he directly put all the EXP into leveling up. Divine Throne Mechanic leveled up to LV32. Plus 500 energy, plus 5 STR, plus 5 DX, plus 18 Yendi, plus 25 INT. You have received 20 free attribute points and 1 awakening point. Divine Throne Mechanic leveled up to LV40. Plus 500 energy, plus 5 STR, plus 5 DX, plus 18 Yendi, plus 25 INT. You have received 20 free attribute points and 1 awakening point. You have received the LV340 promotion mission. LV340 promotion mission. One of the God's trait transformation has reached level 10. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. His God's trait transformation machinery had already reached level 9, and he only needed to build 1 more universal treasure to reach level 10. The upper limit of the Divine Throne Mechanic class was level 60,340. There was no class advancement mission, only the promotion mission. As long as he completed this requirement, he could advance. It doesn't seem that difficult this time. Han Xiao could not help but have such a thought, but he then shook his head and laughed. It's not that the mission is not difficult, but I'm just too good. He originally wanted to throw a mission completion card, but seeing this, he gave up on the idea. Anyway, he would definitely level up his God's trait transformation, so there was no need to waste a mission completion card. After the intelligent plague incident, the dynasty had already opened up the exchange channel for gold-grade blueprints, and he had enough contribution points. He could directly exchange for a blueprint and build it at home. It would not take long, and he still had the patience. Furthermore, the effect of the evolution cube depended on his energy level. Now that he had the Dragon Emperor Star energy absorption technique, Han Xiao planned to raise his energy level to a higher level and obtain an additional bonus from the evolution cube. This would not take much time because his current energy level was not far from the standard for the next level. Han Xiao directly took out his communicator and contacted the people of the Red Empire. After expressing his needs in this regard, he soon received a list of blueprints that could be exchanged from the Red Empire. He browsed through it carefully, selected one, and sent out an exchange request. Next, he only needed to wait for the upper echelons of the dynasty to complete the approval, and he would be able to obtain the blueprint. Gold-grade blueprints were extremely precious to mechanics, and they could not be bought even if they had the money. However, at the height that Han Technician was at, such a rare resource could be easily obtained. Having power in his hands was truly satisfying. Han Xiaoxin was in a good mood. Playing with the communicator while waiting for the dynasty's reply, he casually glanced at the lively scene on planet Milton on the monitor and suddenly had an idea. In his previous life, the location of the First National War was like planet Milton now, one of the main cities with commemorative significance. Unfortunately, after the last version update, that planet was requisitioned and was no longer open to the public. It had always been a place that many players regretted. When the three universal civilizations and the Supercluster Alliance are done fighting, the fourth exploration phase will officially be included in the explored universe. I might as well buy planet Milton and the surrounding few planets and give them to the Yen-Huang Alliance. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. This move would not only deepen the army's presence among the players but also reward the Yen-Huang Alliance. The excellent results of the Yen-Huang Alliance had brought him huge benefit. Although this was an internal matter among the players, he could not be too stingy. He should do something to deepen the army's sense of belonging to the faction. Isn't it just a few planets? How much money is that? He could just buy them. Chapter 1200. Super Godly Mechanic will be updated at midnight. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1201. More than half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Because the Battle of Milton was over, the Pro League, which was still in its preparation period, became more and more popular. Most players preferred to pay attention to new events, and analysis posts about the strength of the professional players of the various clubs began to flood the forums. The various teams also began to promote and mobilize. However, Han Xiao did not pay attention to any of this. As soon as the dynasty's gold blueprint was in his hands, he threw everything to Sylvia and focused on the machine. Because it was his first time creating this blueprint, Han Technician spent half a month fiddling with it. After many failures and accumulating a lot of proficiency points, he finally created a gold-grade product and obtained one God's Trait Transformation point. It's finally done. God's Trait Transformation machinery has reached stage 10. Your life level has undergone an unknown change. You have a new understanding of machinery. Plus 15% chance of forming a unique talent. Universal simulation has been upgraded. You have perceived a portion of the authority of the transformation route, unknown talent. You have received the first sanctum ability fragment. I guessed right. It's indeed 5 stages as one level. Han Xiao nodded. When his God's Trait Transformation reached stage 5, the same notification appeared, and this time, he had obtained the first sanctum fragment. He looked at the effects of stage 10. From Apostle Mechanic to Divine Throne Mechanic, His machinery skill level +3, machinery affinity +1. 2x, ability strength +40%, attack power +1. 3x, shield strength +1. 3x, machinery core power +60%, output power +30%. It was basically a copy of Stage 5, but it was a little better. Just like Stage 5, this wave also increases my combat strength. Not bad, not bad. What's this? Han Xiao glanced at it and suddenly exclaimed in surprise. He realized that the progress behind the ability's name had changed. It should have been a 10/. Now it had become a 10/15. The question marks have changed. So the maximum number of God's trait transformations is 15? It seems that this limit can only be seen after reaching a certain level. He browsed through it carefully and found that it wasn't just a small change. From the 10th level to the 11th level, the transformation point requirement had suddenly increased to 6. At the same time, an unexpected notification popped up. Your God's trait transformation machinery has reached stage 10. You have triggered a transformation requirement. Every time you complete a requirement, you can reduce the God's trait transformation point cost by 1. 1. Reach level 3452. Comprehend an exclusive talent. Develop a gold-grade blueprint on your own. Not only do the transformations from the 10th level and above require points, but they also require hard conditions. It's a bit like an advancement mission. I wonder if the mission completion card will work. Han Xiaoxin thought. Although he was a little surprised by the changes in the God's trait transformation, he had no intention of testing it for the time being. He turned around and asked the mechanical assistants to tidy up the workshop before using the king to teleport to a barren planet where he had already buried a beacon. Swoosh! His vision changed, and he was already in a desolate underground canyon. Looking up, the cliff extended all the way to the sky, forming a line of sight. This was a planet located in the center of the Black Star Corps' territory. He had chosen to advance here because he did not want to cause too much of a commotion. Han Xiao put away the throne that the mechanical army had placed here, took out the evolution cube, and activated it. The pitch-black evolution energy spread out, and Han Xiao guided it into his body. A tide-like pain suddenly erupted, and a black cocoon formed outside his body. On the interface, notifications of the evolution cube taking effect flooded the screen like a waterfall. Han Xiao silently endured the pain brought by the evolution and looked at the notifications. You have used the evolution cube, gold quality. You have received a permanent special buff, gene optimization, evolution cube, detecting species, detection complete. Your current species is Black Star race. Your gene structure is being optimized. The first optimization was successful. Your potential has increased. It has been detected that you have triggered this level of optimization. You have received the following attributes: +0 STR, +0 DX, +1 YND, +2 INT, +0 MYS, +0 CHA, +3 energy. Your energy level is higher than LV0. The second optimization was successful. Your potential has increased. It has been detected that you have triggered this level of optimization. You have received the following attributes: +1 STR, +1 DX, +2 YND, +3 INT, +0 MYS, +0 CHA, +4 energy. During this period, he had taken the time to practice the Dragon Emperor Star energy absorption technique. The day before yesterday, he had already reached the standard of level 24 of the energy realm. When he used the evolution cube for the first time, his energy level was only LV14. The genetic optimization from level 1 to level 16 had been triggered before, and the effect of repeated use was far less than before. However, the genetic optimization from level 17 to level 26 was triggered for the first time, so the effect was normal. All in all, his STR and DX had increased by about 700 points, his YND had increased by about 900 points, and his INT had increased by about 1,100 points. His MYS and CHA had increased by about 500 points, which added up to about 4,500 attribute points. As for his energy, it had increased by about 4,000 points. The effect is not bad. The increase is even greater than the first time. The main reason is that the higher the level, the greater the increase. You have received 26 levels of genetic optimization, plus 40% EXP required to level up. Duration, 26 months. You have met the special conditions. You have an exclusive racial talent and have received more than 20 levels of genetic optimization. You have triggered a special effect. During the next race evolution, your attributes will increase by 30%, and your exclusive racial talent will be strengthened. Genetic optimization complete. With a crack, the black cocoon shattered, and the evolution energy returned to the evolution cube. The pain caused by the genetic optimization slowly subsided. Han Zhao's nerves were now extremely tough, and this little bit of pain could not even distract him. He looked at the notification on the interface and could not help but be overjoyed. He had thought that the evolution cube would only give him a bonus of 10 levels the first time he used it, and the bonus effect of 20 levels was something he did not expect. In his previous life, no player had triggered it before, and no one had such a high energy level. Last time, it provided an additional race evolution opportunity. This time, it increases the attributes of the race evolution. Wonderful! Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. During the level 300 evolution, the evolution option of the Void Angel level had already appeared. This meant that the level 340 evolution would touch the peak of the Void route, and there was an 80% chance that the gene limiter would be removed. With the gene limiter removed, the attributes of the race evolution would be much higher than normal evolution, so he was pleasantly surprised. Good things come in pairs. It wasn't in vain that I spent time with Feudin whenever I had free time. Han Xiao was extremely excited. Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself down and put away the evolution cube. His expression became serious. He looked at the completed status of the level 340 promotion mission and solemnly chose to complete it. Boom! The ground shook. Level 340 promotion mission completed. Promotion successful. Plus 120 basic YND bonus. 1 YND equals 690 health equals 700 stamina. On the path of evolution, you have once again taken a step forward. Your race has been detected as Black Star Race. Exclusive race, unable to be changed. Randomly drawing 5 matching evolutionary directions. Drawing. Drawing complete. Please select 2 from the 5 races below to receive a talent each. 1. A Saint Carmel Race 2. Void Deity, Human Form 3. Internal Star 4. Void Ancestor, New, Human Form 5. Void Worldworm, what are these 2 things? Han Xiao endured the drastic changes in his body and was confused. Of the 5 options, he had never heard of the Saint Carmel Race and Internal Star. He checked the database, but there was no record of them either. At this level of evolution, there's finally something new that I haven't seen before. Han Xiao was a little curious, but since he had already come this far, he naturally had no intention of changing. He did not know what abilities these 2 options had, so he did not plan to take the risk. As for the Void Worldworm, he knew that it was a symbiotic life form born in the Void dimension and was an important part of the natural cycle of the dimension. It usually fed on void energy and space turbulence, forming solid excrement. It was one of the sources of matter in the Void dimension. The Void Spirit and the Void Ancestor were the pinnacle of the evolution path of the Void, and they both had the effect of removing the gene limiter. Han Xiao did not hesitate and directly chose these two races, choosing a talent from each of them. You have received a new talent, Gene Limiter Removal. You have received a new talent, Void Authority. Gene Limiter Removal. Your body's strength can break through the limits of your species, greatly releasing your potential. You will receive a huge amount of attributes, and there is a chance to increase related attributes when doing daily activities. Void Authority. You can control the void dimension to a certain extent, including but not limited to, using void energy to strengthen yourself, absorbing void dimension at high speed, transforming void energy into energy, summoning the void dimension, Void Authority. Kasuyi definitely has this ability. Otherwise, his energy recovery speed would not be so terrifying, Han Xiao nodded. This ability was the most valuable one out of all the talents, and it was equivalent to obtaining a part of the Void Dimension's operation authority. Your Black Star Race talent, Mechanical Genius, has been improved. Mechanical Genius. Machinery affinity increased from 1.28x to 1.38x. Machinery creation performance increased from 44% to 54%. +1 all mechanic skills. Effect unchanged. Prompt. Gene optimization. Evolution Cube S effect has been activated. Your Black Star Race talent, Mechanical Genius, has been improved. Mechanical Genius. Machinery affinity increased from 1.38x to 1.48x. Machinery creation performance increased from 54% to 64%. +2 all mechanic skills. Life level sublimation, molecular structure improvement, organ structure strengthening, metabolism changes. The Black Star Race's potential has been improved. You have received +410 STR, +384 DX, +561 END, +901 INT, +659 MYS, +347 CHA, +10,000 energy. Energy realm bonus attributes have been changed. Gene limiter removal has taken effect. According to your current life level, race potential, and current attributes, you have received bonus attributes. +1,876 STR, +1,670 DX, +2,348 END, +3,971 INT, +1,350 MYS, +966 CHA, +23,400 energy. Prompt. Gene optimization. Evolution Cube S effect has been activated. F***CK. What the F***CK? Han Zhao's pupils constricted, and he could not help but speak in his native language. This attribute replenishment was the biggest one he had received so far. Including the bonus from the Evolution Cube, the total attribute points he had received this time was around 20,000. At this time, the energy in his body became more and more unstable. Han Zhao's entire body emitted a dazzling light as if he had turned into a star core. The surging energy rampaged within his body, as if it was looking for an exit. He couldn't hold it in any longer. The next moment, his body shook violently and the energy shot out. Boom! With Han Zhao's body as the center, the violent energy suddenly swept out. The earth instantly shattered and melted, turning into a blazing red magma ocean. This desolate planet was like a black egg. The next second it exploded, and a golden sun broke out of its shell. At this moment, there was only one thought left in Han Xiaoxin's mind. Luckily, I didn't advance in my base camp. Otherwise, my home would be gone. Chapter 1202. Alert! Alert! A high-energy reaction has occurred in the 4th sector. The specific coordinates are: the Fenrir Star System Space Monitoring Station C0075D suddenly sounded an alarm. The staff in the observation room hurriedly gathered in front of the radar screen. They all had the black star emblem on their uniforms. They were all Army members. The Army had built a large number of space stations in the territory under their jurisdiction to monitor the situation of the entire territory. The artificial intelligence was the main processing, supplemented by a small number of manpower as insurance. At this moment, a dazzling light suddenly lit up on the real-time monitoring star map. The staff hurriedly operated the ultra-long-range astronomical observation device to zoom in. Very soon, the location of the energy explosion was displayed on the screen. The desolate planet at this location had already disappeared, replaced by a mass of golden energy that was constantly expanding. It was like a star in its later years turning into a red giant. Bright golden lightning arcs surged endlessly like a projected solar prominence. Seeing this, the staff in the room were puzzled and discussed among themselves. What's this phenomenon? It looks like the decay of a star, but there was only a desolate planet here. Where did the star come from? The energy fluctuation is very high. The wave band and frequency are more like the energy of a beyond grade A. Could a beyond grade A have snuck in? Everyone discussed for a while and unanimously decided to follow the instructions of the operation manual and conduct an on-site investigation. An unmanned spaceship flew out of the space station, accelerated through hyperdrive, and soon arrived at the location of the incident. The golden energy was still expanding, and its volume was extremely large. The unmanned spaceship could not get close at this time and could only patrol by the side to collect data. This continued for a while. Suddenly, the golden energy stopped expanding and shrank at a speed of hundreds of times, as if it was being continuously devoured. When it shrank to a certain extent, it exploded again, turning into an energy shockwave that spread far away. The observation screen instantly turned white. The shield of the unmanned spaceship flickered, and its value plummeted. Fortunately, it was relatively far away. Although it suffered some damage, it was not destroyed. The spaceship finally stabilized with great difficulty. The staff in the space station hurriedly looked at the location of the explosion, only to see that the area was already empty. The golden energy cluster had disappeared, and all matter on the desolate planet had been annihilated. Nothing was left. After looking around, they did not see anyone at all. Observation complete. The source of the explosion could not be found. Requesting return. Hearing the emotionless report of the artificial intelligence, the staff present looked at each other. This matter is too strange. It's not something we can handle. Report it to the upper echelons quickly. At the same time, on a barren planet in another system of the Army's territory, Han Shao, who had changed into a new set of King Mecha, abruptly appeared on a black wasteland. Phew, I was almost caught. Han Shao took off his mecha and put away the throne in this place. He exhaled a breath with golden electric arcs. This time, the advancement had brought about a massive increase in power. He could no longer control the rampaging energy within his body. His cells were producing energy at high efficiency, releasing the energy within his body and accidentally blowing up a planet. In order not to be seen by his subordinates, he had immediately changed into a spare King Mecha and ran off the moment his advancement was complete. He had chosen the location of his advancement in the depths of his own territory in order to keep it a secret. His original strength had already caused the various major forces to fear him. If the outside world were to know that he had made progress in such a short period of time, they would not only fear him, they would be terrified. It might even cause the opposite effect. Therefore, he had chosen to keep a secret, not wanting others to know about it now. Master Hum. The Fenrir Star Systems Command Center reported the high-energy reaction you triggered. They don't know the cause, so how should I reply, Hum? Philip's childish voice sounded in his mind. So fast? Not bad, not bad. Just reply as usual. Send some exploration teams there for a symbolic walk. Han Shao shook his head and smiled. In the past few years, the Black Star Corps had already established a complete surveillance system in the 7 star systems of the Geru star cluster. He had just left, and the report had already arrived. He was quite satisfied with this reaction speed. It meant that the early warning system in his territory was very effective. Putting this matter aside, Han Shao opened the interface again. The notification of the completion of his advancement had already popped up. He rubbed his hands excitedly and opened the interface after his advancement to observe the changes. Level 340 Main Class, Mechanic Race, Black Star Race Attributes, 15914 STR, 15423DX, 27010 YND, 56460 NT, 13107 MYS, 6430 CH, 0 LUK Free Attribute Points, 135 Awakening Points, 9 Health, 41039094 Stamina, 31662700 Energy, 293475 LV, 25 Energy Bonus Points, plus 6620 STR, plus 7745 DX, plus 10308 YND, plus 14187 INT, plus 6060 MYS, plus 4382600 Stamina Limit, plus 9806% Machinery Affinity Energy Rank, 98510 Grade, SS Grade S Bonus Points, plus 150 YND, plus 45% All Resistances, plus 40% Highest Attribute, plus 25% Other Attributes, plus 750 Free Attribute Points, plus 50 Awakening Points. The door to a higher level is slowly opening for you, hiss. Han Shao took a deep breath. The effect of his advancement this time was extremely good. Every attribute had a huge increase. Calculating, every attribute had increased by about 1/3 compared to before the advancement, except for luck, which had fallen to 0 when he refreshed it when he created the universal treasure. He had forgotten to reset it. His current attributes were much stronger than when he had just entered the Beyond Grade A realm. This was especially true for his energy rank, which had started to increase in the later stages. Every time he reached a higher level, he would receive a stronger increase. The energy rank of LV 25 was about 10 times stronger than when he had just entered the Beyond Grade A realm. Indeed, holding one's energy rank was the best way for every Beyond Grade A to improve themselves. The increase in attributes brought by the race evolution was about the same as the increase in energy rank, which was also huge. This was especially true for his HP. Not to mention the enemy, even Han Shao felt like vomiting. At this moment, he had the urge to imitate Wei Yan and shout, "Who can kill me? Even if I don't use machinery now, I can still kill a Beyond Grade A pugilist with less than 52,000 energy rank with just my body. Furthermore, with my current intelligence attribute and the various bonuses, the strength of my mechanical army is already extremely terrifying." Han Shao clenched his fists, feeling the explosive energy surging in his body, and could not help but smile. With my current strength, even if I don't use Virtual Purification Restore, I shouldn't be afraid of old Manison bringing out the felons. As long as his main body dares to appear in front of me, I will dare to capture him and train him. Among the peak Beyond Grade as of this era, probably only God's chosen Wernos, whose strength I don't know, might be a threat to me. The higher the energy rank, the greater the gap between each point. Han Shao felt that it was a pity that he did not reach 100,000 energy rank this time. After all, this was like a threshold, and he might be able to trigger something. However, considering that the boundary of Beyond Grade A back then was not a whole number, and there were even decimals, 100,000 energy rank might not have any special meaning. His grade did not change either. Han Shao felt that SS was probably the peak of the S grade, and the next level should be the higher realm that God yearned for. It would be like the gap between a Beyond Grade A and a Calamity Grade. The free attribute points brought by leveling up from level 331 to level 340 were not used yet. He casually threw some into luck, making Eggy turn into a stick, and then threw all the remaining free attribute points into intelligent. He looked at the cost of leveling up, and the amount skyrocketed again. It was an astronomical figure, and even a rich leak like Han technician was speechless. After admiring it for a few more minutes, Han Shao looked away reluctantly. He thought for a while and pulled down his ability tab. Previously, he was busy with his promotion and did not think about the changes of the god's trait transformation. This time, Han Shao fulfilled the 5 conditions of the god's trait transformation and obtained the full 5 points. However, god's trait transformation machinery required 6 points to reach level 11, and he was still 1 point short. He wanted to see if the mission completion card would work and reduce the cost. Logically speaking, the mission completion card is useful for promotion missions, and it should also be useful for this kind of leveling condition, Han Shao mumbled to himself. He took out the mission completion card, selected the Develop Gold Grade Blueprints by Myself requirement, slapped it, and then quickly looked at the notification on the interface. You have used a mission completion card. Mission completion card has taken effect. You have completed one of the leveling requirements for God's Trait Transformation Machinery. The leveling cost is reduced by 1 point. Oh, it really works. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. He had obtained quite a number of random reward opportunities in the past few years, so he had stocked up on some mission completion cards. If they worked on the God's Trait Transformation, they would have another important use. Although this is good news, I don't know if the leveling requirements will increase in the future. It's better to use them sparingly. I'll try my best to fulfill some of the requirements that I have the ability to fulfill. Anyway, it's just increasing my strength, so there's no harm in doing so, Han Shao thought to himself. He still decided to level up God's Trait Transformation Machinery first. If the level limit was still a question mark, he might have invested in the God's Trait Transformation for the Void route. However, now that he realized that the upper limit was not far away, he planned to try and see what changes would happen after he maxed out the God's Trait Transformation route. At this time, his communicator suddenly rang. Beep beep beep. Han Shao took it out and saw Kasui's big face on the screen. Black Star, are you done with your business? When are we leaving? Han Shao had once agreed to Kasui's request to form a team, but it was delayed because of Moto's matter. After Moto was eliminated, Kasui had been sending invitations every now and then. The most recent one was 4 days ago, when Han Shao replied that he would wait for a while because of his promotion. Today, Kasui called again and seemed very eager. Okay, you came at the right time. I've just finished my business. When do you want to go? Han Shao said helplessly. Only then did Kasui smile. Now. So soon? Han Shao was surprised. That's right. Do you have time? I do, but I don't even know where to go. Don't I have to make any preparations? It's okay. Let's go to the Void Dimension first. I'll tell you the details then. After saying that, Kasui quickly hung up without waiting for Han Shao to answer. Han Shao played with the communicator, becoming more and more curious. He had only agreed to Kasui's invitation as a favor between friends, but he was now more and more interested in the goal of Kasui's trip. What could make someone of Kasui's level so anxious? Who knew how long this trip would take? Han Shao thought about it and sent a message to Sylvia. I'm going to the secondary dimension world, and I don't know when I'll be back for the time being. I'll have to let you continue to be in charge for a while. After waiting for a while, Han Shao received a reply. Sylvia, you might as well not come back. Han Shao was helpless. Even I know how to strike a balance between work and rest, but Sylvia has to work overtime endlessly. It's normal for her to be a little resentful. I won't argue with a guy whose hairline is in danger." Han Xiao was about to summon the mysterious energy host to bring him into the secondary dimension world when he suddenly stopped. "Oh right, I have the Void Authority now, so I should be able to enter and exit the secondary dimension world at will without using the primal chaos mysterious energy." He closed his eyes and activated this talent, communicating with the void dimension. His consciousness seemed to have sunk into a colorful world. Colorful bubbles flashed across his field of vision. Soon, a large grayish-blue bubble appeared in his line of sight. It grew bigger and bigger. Han Zhao's heart moved, and according to the instinctive reaction brought by the Void Authority, he inserted his consciousness into the void dimension from this very macroscopic perspective. Puff! A smooth sound seemed to ring out in his mind. His consciousness entered the void dimension without any obstructions. It was as smooth as lubricant, leaving his mark in the dimensional core. Boom! The next moment, Han Xiao felt his consciousness spread out, covering the entire void dimension. The void energy in the dimension seemed to have become an extension of his body, and he could even absorb the energy of the void dimension through the connection of his consciousness, like an invisible energy transmission channel. So this is what it feels like to connect to a secondary dimension. It's similar to what Hela described. Han Xiao was amazed. There were very few beyond grade as who could connect to secondary dimensions. Kasuyi was connected to the void dimension, Hela was connected to the underworld dimension, and Traveler was connected to the evil convergence. Now, he had also entered this category. He had to admit that the endless energy from the secondary dimension nourishing his body was indeed a different feeling. At this moment, he suddenly thought of something. By the way, Kasuyi is also connected to the void dimension. I wonder if he will notice. At the same time, in the void dimension, Kasuyi had just returned to the palace in the void dimension from the main universe and was waiting for Black Star to come while absorbing the void energy to adjust his state. Suddenly, his body trembled, and he looked up with a shocked expression. Someone connected to the void dimension again? Kasuyi did not mind others connecting to the void dimension because the energy inside was endless, and he did not mind sharing it with another person. After all, he was not a fierce man like Traveler who treated secondary dimensions as his wife. However, this was not something that could be done overnight. Only void species had such qualifications. They needed to use their mental strength to grind away layers of obstacles before they could touch the core of the dimension and establish a connection. Back then, Kasuyi had tried countless times before he finally connected to the void dimension. However, this unknown newcomer did not have any foreplay and went straight to the core the first time he connected to the dimension. This made it difficult for him to understand. Who could this guy be? Kasuyi was secretly shocked, and at the same time, he felt a little jealous. This feeling was like chasing after his sweetheart and only making a little progress after a lot of effort. However, when he turned around, he realized that his sweetheart was not cold to him at all when facing a tall, rich, and handsome guy who appeared out of nowhere. It was not difficult for others to chase after her. Even I can't do it so fast. How could this person? The more Kasuyi thought about it, the more upset he felt. The void energy in his mouth suddenly did not taste good. Chapter 1203. Somewhere in the void dimension, a ray of light flashed, revealing Han Zhao's figure. He had teleported over through the Void Authority. Kasuyi should be here. Let's go find him first. With the Void Authority, a small map of the void dimension appeared in his mind. It was very convenient. Han Xiao identified the direction and headed toward the central area of the void dimension, which was Kasuyi's territory. The effect of void travel was greatly enhanced here, and he could cross a long distance with every flash. Not long after, Han Shao arrived at the periphery of Kasui's territory. After thinking about it, he stopped outside a crystal floating island that served as a border outpost and released a little bit of his aura. Rumble! The surrounding void energy stirred up a storm, and the guards in the outpost were alarmed. A huge void legion flew out and confronted Han Shao from a distance. The leader was a void duke. Who dares to trespass on Lord Kasui's? Oh, it's Lord Blackstar. Before the void duke could finish his warning, he saw Han Zhao's appearance clearly and immediately put away his hostility, his attitude becoming friendly. Han Zhao's reputation in the void dimension was not small. The deeds he had left here last time had already spread, and most of the experts at the top of the void food chain knew about this void creature on the same level as Kasui. This was due to the influence of the Void Conqueror milestone. I have an appointment with Kasui. Where is he? Han Shao asked. Lord Kasui is already waiting for you in the main hall. Come with me. The Void Duke dismissed the troops and led Han Shao into the outpost. They came to a platform engraved with mysterious patterns, then took out a dark blue crystal and activated it with void energy. The next moment, the surrounding void energy surged and formed a grayish-blue spatial vortex on the ground of the platform. A portal unique to void technology? Han Shao sized it up. The rules of the void dimension were different and had its own technical system. It was a type of method that used the void energy as its foundation and made use of its various characteristics. Basically, it could only be effective within the void dimension. As soon as he stepped in, void energy surged through his entire body, making him feel as though he was descending into the clouds. In the next instant, his vision blurred, and he found himself in a majestic and luxurious palace. The palace was made of crystals of various colors, and it was extremely exquisite. Black Star, you're here. A familiar voice came from behind. Han Shao turned around and saw a small table with Kasui sitting on the side and nodding slightly. Just as he was about to continue speaking, Kasui suddenly stopped and revealed a surprised expression. He suddenly sensed a similar aura from Han Shao. It wasn't a simple feeling of being of the same race, but rather a very high-level void bloodline. You evolved again? Kasui was surprised. No, it's just a little bit of progress, Han Shao said modestly. As a void creature, it was difficult to hide his race evolution from Kasui, but the other party could only sense a trace of his aura and couldn't see through his exact situation. Every time I see you, you surprise me. Kasui narrowed his eyes and probed. Just now, was it you who established a connection with the void dimension? Oh, you found out. Han Shao spread out his hands and smiled. I just tried it. I didn't expect it to be so simple and succeed in one try. I remember you said that you don't mind others connecting to the void dimension, so you shouldn't have any objections, right? It's okay, I'm just curious. Kasui's eyelids twitched and he waved his hand. He pretended to be indifferent, but his heart was filled with jealousy. Simple? King want to beat you to death. If you can connect to the void dimension with a casual try, then what's all the hard work I put in? However, he couldn't lose his temper. Being able to do it in one try was his ability, and he couldn't be envious. Comparisons were odious. While he was cursing in his heart, Han Shao suddenly stepped forward and pinched his face with his fingers. Kasui was stunned on the spot. He raised his head and stared at Han Shao. What are you doing? To see if you're an avatar or your main body. Han Shao was curious. I'm in my main body now. Kasui slapped away Han Zhao's claws. Han Shao was puzzled. Didn't you say that the dimension you wanted to explore was very dangerous? I thought you would send an avatar, but I didn't expect it to be your main body. With your small body, you still dare to be so reckless? Kasui's face twitched. What are you talking about? Do you think I'm fragile? Well, compared to you, I'm indeed fragile, but I'm a peak beyond grade A after all. No matter how fragile I am, There's a limit. Kasuyi was speechless for a while before helplessly pointing to the seat opposite him. Please take a seat and eat something. I'll explain the goal of this trip to you first. As soon as he said that, a few void creatures carrying trays walked in. The table was filled with food and wine. On the plates were colorful translucent crystals. They were very beautiful. Han Shao glanced at the food on the table, and the corner of his mouth twitched. If he was not wrong, this thing seemed to be the excrement of the Void World bug, and it was the most essential part. What's wrong? Eat some. No, my taste isn't that heavy. Han Shao hurriedly waved his hands. This was considered the hometown dish of the void creatures, containing pure void energy. However, he was an acquired species after all, so he did not have such a habit. Seeing this, Kasuyi did not force him. He picked up the glass and took a sip of wine before explaining the goal of this trip. At our current level, God's trait transformation is an indispensable path. You must have touched this field. You might not know this, but as the degree of God's trait transformation gets higher and higher, there will be a kind of intuition that will allow you to perceive some opportunities for transformation. It may be some objects, or it may be completing some illusory things. As long as you find the opportunity, you can greatly reduce the difficulty of the next God's trait transformation. This time, I sensed an opportunity, and my intuition led me to the secondary dimension we're going to explore later. There seems to be something in there that attracts me and is beneficial to my God's trait transformation. Oh! Han Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Transformation opportunity? This was very similar to the prerequisite for the God's trait transformation ability to reach level 10. So this is how it manifests in normal people. Then, Kasuyi definitely has a path of God's trait transformation that has reached level 10 and above. To a beyond grade A, information regarding the God's trait transformation was precious knowledge. Kasuyi was not stingy in sharing it. Han Shao listened for a while and understood more. According to Kasuyi, after reaching the high level of God's trait transformation, he would sense something similar to a mission. Achieving this mission would allow him to steadily improve his God's trait transformation. To explain it in more mysterious terms, it was like seeking one's path. It sounded illusory, but Kasuyi gave two real examples. For example, the mission he sensed was to become the strongest overlord of the void dimension, which would be beneficial to his God's trait transformation. Manison sensed that he would become the machinery faith main god, and this was what old Manison had told him in private. Kasuyi also had his own guesses as to why this would happen. The way he saw it, the God's trait transformation was not only the sublimation of an individual but also the entanglement of fate with countless external factors. Only by shouldering and integrating the fate of some groups could the final God's trait transformation be completed. It was like a destiny that the strong had to bear. There's such a thing? Han Shao was secretly surprised. Thinking about it, since the God's trait transformation had the word divinity, it did not seem impossible. It was just that he did not know what would happen after the transformation was completed. It was no wonder Kasuyi was so impatient. It turned out that he saw an opportunity to take the next step. However, from his perspective, this matter could actually be explained simply by the interface. It was probably similar to the requirements of the high level of God's trait transformation. It was no longer a rigid indicator of level, ability, attribute, and so on. Instead, it was like some stages of promotion or class advancement, becoming a type of mission that required one to complete something related to the transformation route. Thus, in the eyes of ordinary people, it was like they had sensed their own mission. Because he had already tested that the mission completion card could take effect on the God's trait transformation, although Han Shao was surprised, he did not feel embarrassed. Instead, he was even happier. It did not matter how a normal beyond grade A cultivated. Anyway, they were not in the same system. He just had to rush it. At this time, Han Xiao suddenly realized a problem. I'm also a void creature, so my transformation route should be the same as yours. According to your theory, won't we become competitors? Kasui shook his head and said indifferently, even if it's the same transformation route, what everyone senses is completely different. Although I don't have much information, my intuition tells me that everyone's path is unique, at least for people of the same generation. Then your intuition is really rich. Han Xiao complained and then asked, I already understand the goal. This time, it's to help you find the opportunity for the god's trait transformation in that secondary dimension, right? How's the situation there? Have you explored the path? Hearing this, Kasui's expression became much more serious. He frowned slightly and said with a deep voice, I've sent 2 clones. I've already sent my doppelganger there twice. That place is located in the depths of the secondary dimension world. The space turbulence there is extremely violent, and the environment is extremely dangerous. However, this is not the most important thing. There is a group of powerful creatures guarding that dimension. My doppelganger was unable to repel them both times. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. Being able to repel Kasui's clones meant that the total combat power of this group of creatures was comparable to a peak beyond grade A. It was undoubtedly a dangerous place in the secondary dimension world, and it was extremely rare. If an ordinary beyond grade A encountered it, they would most likely die. Have you tried to communicate with them? I tried at the time, but their memories were empty. There was no valuable information, and they seemed to have no self-consciousness. They never responded to me, and I don't recognize what species they are. There are no records in the database. Let me see. Han Xiao frowned, worried that Kasui had encountered someone from the World Tree. That would not be good. However, after seeing the image shared by Kasui, Han Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. He also did not recognize this creature. He had never seen it in his previous life, so it most likely had nothing to do with the World Tree civilization. Just the guardians outside the secondary dimension have such strength. I wonder what's going on inside. Have you been in? No, I haven't broken through the seal of these creatures, so I don't know what's inside. It's already so dangerous outside, so it definitely won't be any better inside. Maybe it's the nest of these creatures. Han Xiao had a strange expression. So, you really want to go with your main body? Don't you want to consider it? The opportunity to transform can only be discovered when I go there myself. With your help this time, it shouldn't be a problem. The mechanic class is most suitable for dealing with large-scale battles. That's your strength. Kasui smiled and said honestly, I invited you this time. Not only because of your ability, but also because I want to borrow your king mechanical suit. If the situation isn't good, we can immediately retreat. Only you have such mobility. I see. Han Xiao nodded, thought about it and said, Then, I'll accompany you with my main body. Then I'll go with you with my main body. The mechanical body is too fragile. It's not safe. Hearing this, Kasui did not know what expression to make for a moment. Among all the mechanics in the universe, only you can say such inhumane words, ding. You have triggered the mission Kasui's invitation. Mission introduction. In order to find an opportunity for the god's trait transformation, Kasui decided to explore a dangerous and mysterious unknown secondary dimension. Because he saw your ability, he sent you a team request. Mission requirements. Help Kasui find the target of this trip. Reward. 450 billion experience, 6 random rewards, 3 character summon cards, plus 30 Kasui favorability, 1 god's trait transformation point, milestone. Unknown note. This mission is extremely risky. It is recommended to choose carefully. 450 billion experience points? Han Zhao's eyes widened, almost suspecting that he had seen wrongly. The experience reward was often linked to the difficulty of the mission. Killing old Manison would only give him around 1,000 billion experience. So far, the mission with the highest experience reward he had ever seen was the End of Darkness, which was basically impossible to complete. However, this mission actually gave him a reward of 450 billion experience, and it even specifically said that the difficulty was extremely high. At this moment, Han Xiao could conclude that there was definitely a huge secret in that mysterious secondary dimension. In his previous life, there was no such person as himself. Kasui's teammate for this trip was most likely Manison. Since the two of them had come out safely, it meant that even if the risk was high, it would not exceed the range of a peak beyond Grade A's ability. He had just advanced, and his strength had greatly improved. If Manison and Kasui could do it, it should not be a problem for him. I've replaced Manison's position. If there's anything good in that secondary dimension, there won't be anything for Manison. Thinking about it this way, did he just take away another opportunity from Manison? Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. His greatest hobby now was to persecute Manison, and it felt good to do so. At the same time, somewhere in the primeval Star River, a Chu Manison, who was studying the blueprint, suddenly sneezed, and his face instantly turned gloomy. With his rich experience, he did not even need to think to know that it was definitely Black Star talking about him again. Chapter 1204. In the storm-like space storm, a silver prismatic spaceship with a shield cut through the waves, shuttling at high speed like a small boat in a huge wave. Han Xiao and Kasui were both in the cockpit, observing the map of the secondary dimension world. We're going deeper and deeper. Han Xiao looked at the constantly jumping coordinates and smacked his lip. Are you sure we didn't go the wrong way? My senses have always been in this direction. According to my experience, we're almost there. Kasui nodded. The two of them set off from the void dimension, boarded an exploration spaceship dedicated to the secondary dimension world, and began to head toward their destination. Because Kasui did not enter the target's secondary dimension, he did not have an anchor coordinate. He could only transit in the various secondary dimensions he knew and try to shorten the distance as much as possible before flying across the space turbulence. The two of them flew for many days and had long left the control range of the three universal civilizations. They went deeper and deeper into the secondary dimension world, passing through one strange secondary plane after another. The secondary dimension world was like the main universe, constantly expanding and expanding. Every second, countless secondary dimension worlds were born or died. The three universal civilizations had only explored a portion of the more stable areas. They called the explored areas the shallow layer, and the unknown areas the deep layer. However, this was just a difference in name. In fact, there was no fundamental difference between the deep layer and the shallow layer secondary dimensions. It was difficult to move without coordinates here. The two of them could only rely on Kasui's senses, which was the only navigator. Fortunately, he had already been there twice and confirmed that this method was feasible. At this moment, an almost imperceptible crack suddenly appeared in the space turbulence in front of them. Kasui's eyes lit up. It's there. Hearing this, Han Xiao immediately steered the spaceship into an arc and charged into the crack. Boom! Logically speaking, the cracks in the space wall encountered in the space storm would allow one to directly enter a secondary dimension. However, it was different this time. The two of them only felt the hull tremble slightly. The world outside the porthole was still the space storm, but it seemed to have changed. An endless beehive-shaped space wall appeared in front of them, giving off a mysterious blue-purple color. This was the outside of the secondary dimension world. Outside the space wall, a large group of strange creatures wandered. They were the monsters that Kasui had mentioned. Dragon Soar. This is the place? Yes, be careful. These creatures are very aggressive, very durable, and have astonishing resistance to mental and energy attacks. Their resilience is very strong, and they can also release a kind of energy similar to dimensional lightning. Moreover, the energy of each individual can resonate, forming a huge shield that covers the spatial wall, isolating it from the outside world. If we don't kill these creatures, we won't be able to break through this shield. This is also the reason why I can't charge in, Kasuyi instructed. Han Shao carefully observed these creatures. They were quite large in size. Although he lacked a reference point, he estimated that they were about 300,000 meters long. Their structure had the characteristics of beetles. They had milky white exoskeletons all over their bodies. They were long and had distinct segments. At first glance, they looked like centipedes without legs. However, along the gap between the carapace and the abdomen, there was a circle of light blue membranous wings, which gave it the feeling of a plankton. Every segment of the membrane wings had a bony joint that looked like a limb. At the end of the joint was a hollow bone tube that looked like a breathing organ. It kept swallowing and spitting out space turbulence. On their abdomen, there were 2 rows of symmetrical chelicerae that extended all the way to their tails. There were no visual organs or mouthparts on their heads, only a huge cone covered with rows of densely packed holes. If one didn't look carefully, it was almost impossible to distinguish the head from the tail. They look really capricious. Is it because no one can see them, so they just grow as they wish? Han Shao secretly criticized. Just as the two were chatting, this group of wandering creatures discovered their spaceship and immediately launched an attack. The monsters sucked in a large amount of space turbulence, and black and purple lightning suddenly appeared, swimming around their bodies, and then suddenly shot out, attacking the spaceship. Buzz! Kasuyi's eyes lit up, and a huge psychic shield popped out to protect the spaceship. All the black and purple lightning bombarded it, exploding into arcs of electricity. However, he kept injecting energy into the shield, making it motionless. With the support of a huge amount of energy, Kasuyi was not afraid of consumption at all. Their skin is rough and their flesh is thick, and their mental resistance is amazing. My efficiency is very low. Black Star, I'll leave it to you. Kasuyi turned his head and said, You defend. Just watch how I deal damage. Han Shao nodded and opened the secondary dimensional army box. Mechanical soldiers surged out, unleashing powerful firepower. This area became the battlefield of the mechanical army. Army-style mechanics were best at large-scale team battles. Although Kasuyi was also good at AoE, his psychic power was more suitable for mental damage. As long as he faced a target with high mental resistance, his output efficiency would decrease. The psionic cannons bombarded the monsters, creating charred holes on their exoskeletons. The resistance of these monsters was indeed shocking, but Han Shao was no longer the same as before. After his promotion, his attributes had increased exponentially, and his mechanical force bonus was even stronger. Under the concentrated fire of the mechanical army, the monsters were easily blasted into pieces one after another, turning into a pile of biological tissue. At this time, more and more creatures rushed over. Their numbers seemed endless, and they fought with the mechanical army without the slightest fear. Their energy resonated and connected with each other, building an extremely thick black and purple shield that covered every single one of them. This slowed down the speed of casualties. As more and more creatures arrived, the strength of their attacks and shields continued to increase. The more creatures there were, the higher the increase. The battle outside was very intense, but the two of them still stayed in the spaceship and did not move. Observing the battlefield outside the porthole, Kasuyi was a little surprised. Black Star, why is the lethality of your mechanical army so high? He had fought with these creatures before and knew their defense very well. In his opinion, although Black Star could deal with the enemy, it should not be as easy as it was now. Kasuyi and Manison had known each other for many years, so he knew the rope. The strength displayed by Black Star's Mech Legion was beyond his expectations. The rescue of Hela was the only time Kasuyi had personally experienced Han Zhao's strength. However, compared to that time, Black Star's improvement was too great. "You're flattering me. You're just SOSO." Han Zhao smiled and waved his hand. He did not want to reveal his true strength. Seeing that Han Zhao was unwilling to say, Kasuyi did not ask further. He suppressed his shock and changed the topic. He shook his head and sighed. "Mechanics are really convenient. Sitting in the spaceship, I don't have to do anything, and I can solve the problem that troubles me. There are specializations. Although we mechanics have many subordinates, weapons, and money, and can adapt to almost any situation, especially an anomaly like me who can fight with pugilists, I don't have psychic power." Han Zhao laughed. "I don't feel comforted at all when you say that." The two of them chatted casually. Han Zhao opened the interface and looked at the combat information. Old Ku did not know the origin of these creatures, but he had the interface. He could see what these creatures were. Glancing at it, the interface named these creatures space lice. Their average level was between level 240 and 260, and they were special creatures with powerful talent. Judging from their attributes and skills, the strength of a single space lice was slightly higher than a calamity grade, but far from a beyond grade A. The main reason was their amazing resistance. They lived in space turbulence and were constantly being torn apart by space storms. The interstellar beasts of the past were like little brothers compared to them. The space lice had an important talent of sharing energy. The more of their kind within a certain range, the greater the increase. They could share damage and transfer attributes, but there was a limit to the increase. If they reached the peak, their resistance would be so strong that they could even resist the attacks of Pinnacle Beyond Grade As. These creatures are quite powerful. As long as there are enough of them, they'll be comparable to Pinnacle Beyond Grade As. I can get a bunch of them back to breed, but I don't know what their habits are like or if they can survive in the main universe. Han Zhao stroked his chin and muttered. "I don't care about that now." Kasuyi waved his hands. He only wanted to enter this secondary dimension to find the opportunity for his god's trait transformation. "That's true. Let's get down to business first." Han Zhao nodded. He was about to have his mechanical army blast open the shield of the space lice and open up a passage into the secondary dimension. However, at this moment, boom! A powerful energy wave suddenly erupted in the distance and rapidly approached. Sensing this energy wave, Han Zhao and Kasuyi's expressions changed. "This energy..." Kasuyi's expression was grave. "It can't be wrong. This is the energy of a true Pinnacle Beyond Grade A, and its level is not lower than yours or mine." Han Zhao frowned. In their perception range, the source of this energy was rapidly approaching, bringing with it a strong sense of threat. The two of them moved and finally left the spaceship. They also released their auras and looked at the source of the energy wave from afar. Not long after, a meteor shot over and stopped in front of the two of them, revealing its figure. It was about 3 meters tall and wore a strange armor that covered its entire body, not revealing any skin. There were only 2 blue light spots in the eye area of the helmet. Han Zhao and Kasuyi sized up the newcomer, quietly looked at each other, and communicated on the mental level. "You didn't meet this person the last 2 times you came?" "No, his aura is very unfamiliar. He doesn't seem to be someone I know." "Could he be someone who has been hiding in the secondary dimension and trained to the Pinnacle Beyond Grade A level?" "That's possible. Communicate with him and see what's going on." The two of them quickly reached a consensus. Kasuyi immediately released a gentle psychic energy, indicating that he was not hostile, and sent out a mental message in an attempt to communicate with the other party. Han Zhao did not intervene in the conversation between the two of them. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, he saw that Kasuyi's expression suddenly became ugly. He immediately asked, What did he say? No matter what I said to him, his reply was exactly the same. He asked us to leave this place, or he would kill the intruders. He called us intruders? Han Xiao was surprised. Could this secondary dimension be his territory? Considering the difficulty of the mission, he knew that it would not be easy from the beginning. He had originally thought that this secondary dimension was the lair of the space lice, but now it seemed that he had guessed wrong. Moreover, the surrounding space lice did not attack this mysterious person, as if they were being farmed. The truth did not seem to be that simple. How would I know? Looks like there's no room for discussion. Let's get ready. Kasuyi narrowed his eyes. He was determined to obtain the god's trait transformation opportunity and would never compromise. That's fine, but there's no need to fight with him. We just need to temporarily force him to retreat, and we can directly enter the secondary dimension. Let's see what's going on inside first, Han Xiao suggested. Kasuyi nodded and did not object. He suddenly launched an attack, his psychic energy instantly surging out, shattering the surrounding space turbulence. The mysterious person instantly counterattacked, a surging blue energy gushing out and colliding with Kasuyi's psychic energy. Boom! A violent energy wave suddenly exploded, and the surrounding space lice and mechanical troops were all swept away. Kasuyi's mana was almost infinite, and his fighting style had always been bold. However, the other party was not stingy with his energy either. Psychic energy and energy were in a stalemate in midair, and shock waves burst out. The strength of this mysterious person was actually on par with Kasuyi. Seeing this, Han Xiao did not say anything and launched a righteous 2-versus-1 battle. Mechanical force shot out, dragging countless mechanical soldiers toward him. The next moment, a slightly smaller mechanical deity suddenly descended and swung its blade. The other party's combat strength had undoubtedly reached the SS grade, and the effect of a fearless heart was immediately activated. Swoosh! The celestial punishment edge was like a hot knife cutting through butter, instantly cutting through the energy shield used by the mysterious person and sending him flying, disappearing from sight like a meteor. Kasuyi's psychic energy missed, and he almost could not react in time. You sent him flying just like that? Isn't that too fast? Although I was in a stalemate with him, this mysterious person's strength is almost the same as mine. You sent him flying with one slash. Isn't that a bit too much? Kasuyi's mood was complicated. He only felt that the current black star seemed to be a little stronger than he expected. There was a huge difference in strength from his impression of Han Xiao. Alright, don't talk so much. I only sent him flying. When he comes back, we'll still have to deal with him. Let's go in and take a look first. Han Xiao personally took action, and like a hot knife through butter, he controlled the mechanical deity and crushed all the space lice blocking the way. With one slash, he destroyed the shield formed by the energy resonance of the space lice, and the spatial wall of this secondary dimension was exposed in front of him. Seeing this, Kasuyi did not have the time to worry about Han Xiao's strength and quickly followed. The two of them rushed into this secondary dimension together with a large wave of mechanical troop. At this moment, the mysterious person finally flew back. Looking at the spatial wall that was gradually closing, the blue light spots in his eyes flickered rapidly and suddenly turned red. The invader has successfully broken through the second line of defense, immediately implementing the third set of countermeasures. Changing operation mode. Change complete. Current mode, kill. As soon as Han Xiao entered the spatial wall, his eyes were filled with blue-purple spatial turbulence. A sense of stickiness and suffocation hit him in the face, shocking him. This feeling seems different from when I entered other secondary dimensions. Before he could feel it carefully, his vision suddenly changed. When he saw the scene in front of him, he was suddenly stunned with a look of surprise. He was high in the sky, and an extremely prosperous galactic city appeared in front of him. There were many tall buildings, bright lights, and countless flying vehicles coming and going. There was an endless stream of pedestrians on the streets, and they were all races he did not recognize at all. What is going on here? Kasuyi was also shocked. He also did not expect it to be like this, with so many people living inside. Han Xiaoxin recalled that in the battle information just now, the mysterious person's name was Supreme Guardian. Was the target of his protection this civilization? Looking back, the two of them were stunned again. They saw that it was not the spatial wall of the secondary dimension, but the galaxy that filled the sky like the main universe. Just as the two of them were puzzled, a sudden change occurred. Woo 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 woo. Emergency shelter. Emergency shelter. The entire city suddenly rang with ear-piercing alarms. The ground shook and the steel surface slid open, revealing the entrances to the shelters. Countless pedestrians and flying vehicles hurriedly flew into the shelters as if they had practiced this thousands of times. At the same time, strangely shaped turrets stretched out from the ground and aimed at the two of them. Hey, we're being treated as invaders. What the hell? Before Han Xiao finished speaking, he suddenly sensed the energy fluctuations of 6 beyond grade as erupting, and his eyes widened. In the distance, 6 figures rose into the sky from all directions of the city and rushed toward the two of them. Looking at this scene, Han Xiao and Kasuyi looked at each other with the same surprise in their eyes. Including the peak beyond grade A outside, there were at least 7 beyond grade as hiding in this secondary dimension. What kind of place is this? Fortunately, these 6 are only ordinary beyond grade so we can still deal with. Kasuyi suddenly paused halfway through his words, and his expression became extremely strange. What's wrong? Han Xiao saw that his expression was not right and asked. My connection with the void dimension seems to have been cut off? Kasuyi's eyes widened slightly in shock. Han Xiao frowned and secretly sensed it. He found that he was the same and could not sense the void dimension. He opened the interface to see if he had suffered any abnormal status. However, the status bar was as usual and was not affected by the space interference device. However, when he pulled down to the skill bar, he found something strange. Not only did a large number of talents related to the void dimension turn gray, but even the secondary dimensional army box and dimension factory became frozen and could not be used. What's the situation here? Han Xiao was confused and felt that this secondary dimension had an indescribable strangeness. Chapter 1205. Just as the two of them were surprised, the 6 beyond grade approached and surrounded them. The one at the front seemed to be the leader, and he spoke loudly. However, neither Han Xiao nor Kasuyi understood what he was saying. The other party was using an unfamiliar language that was not in the database of the universal translation device. Kasuyi narrowed his eyes, released his psychic energy to communicate, and pulled Han Xiao into the chat channel. Seeing this scene, the leader on the other side was stunned for a moment, seeming to feel puzzled. Then, he received the mental communication. As soon as it connected, he immediately questioned, "Who are you? Where are you from? Don't you understand the universal language? Where is this?" Kasuyi asked. The capital of Emperor Tua Province, a colonial planet under the jurisdiction of the Corpus civilization. I'm the captain of the Emperor Tua Guardians, Farlight. Please explain your origins and identity immediately. Why did you appear above the city? Answer the question. Hearing this, Han Xiao and Kasuyi looked at each other and felt the confusion of the other through the mental connection. Corpus civilization? They had never heard of it. Looking at the history of the exploration era, there seemed to be no records. Could this be a civilization born in the secondary dimensions and had never appeared in the main universe? Although they did not know what their technological level was, with 6 beyond grade overseeing it, They would definitely have a place in the main universe. Seeing that the two of them did not respond, Farlight's tone became heavier. This is the period of martial law in the entire universe. You have violated the ban of the Celestial Star Alliance, visiting the colonial planets of other civilizations without permission and casually displaying your strength. According to the relevant laws, you must immediately disarm, seal your source energy, and accept our investigation. Otherwise, we will take coercive measures. They could understand every word of these words, but when they were connected together, the two of them were a little confused. Martial law in the entire universe? Celestial Star Alliance? Source energy? What the hell is all of this? Although they did not understand the meaning of these names, the other party's meaning was clear. It was nothing more than asking them to give up resistance. In this unfamiliar environment, the two of them naturally could not give up on self-preservation and be captured. Kasui still wanted to ask for more information, but seeing that the two of them were indifferent, Farlight's expression darkened. He did not waste any more time and directly attacked. Boom! His aura suddenly exploded, and with a flash of rainbow light, Farlight appeared in front of Kasui as if he had teleported. His fist rumbled and shook the air, producing a thunderous sound. "You dare to attack me?" Kasui frowned. His speed was even faster. He reached out and placed his hand on the side of Fatty's fist. His psychic power flowed, and his body tilted slightly. Then, he casually pushed aside the vigorous martial Dao flames spurting out of Fatty's fist and turned into a beam of light that disappeared into the horizon. Then, his movements changed slightly, and a light forward elbow strike landed on Farlight's chest. The highly condensed psychic power was like a needle, pouring into the opponent's body through the area of impact without any wastage. Bang! Due to the explosive force, Farlight was unable to control his body and was sent flying backwards at a speed several times faster than before. He crashed through several tall buildings, leaving behind a large hole that penetrated from the front to the back as he disappeared into the distance. Han Xiao could not help but raise his eyebrows. "Yo, you're also a martial artist who can fight hand to hand. Don't look down on me. I fought my way out of the void dimension after all. Close combat is also my forte." Kasui swung his arm, his tone casual. Although he was used to squandering the infinite mana provided by the void dimension, before he established the dimensional link, his fighting style had always been very meticulous. Under the premise of not wasting energy, he would cause the greatest damage. As a void creature who had been in the void dimension since young, close combat was not his weakness. Furthermore, he was a peak beyond grade A after all. Just based on his basic attributes, he could compete with an ordinary beyond grade A pugilist, not to mention that he also had the dual attributes of psychic and physical energy. The other 5 beyond grade as seemed to be shocked and let out the same exclamation. Han Xiao did not know what they were talking about. The next moment, the 5 of them rushed up and launched a siege. The various weapons protruding from the city on the ground also opened fire. Boom, 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 boom. It was as if fireworks had lit up all over the ground. Densely packed energy rays soared into the sky, and countless light chains lashed out toward the two of them. "Oh, these people are so irritable, fighting right above the city. Aren't they afraid that we'll blow up their balls?" Han Xiao complained. With a wave of his hand, mechanical force shot out, and the surrounding mechanical troops quickly returned fire, blocking the attacks of the weapons on the ground while tangling with the 5 beyond grade as. The mechanical troops that were fighting the space lice outside the secondary dimension were all brought in by Han Xiao. Although the secondary dimensional army box and the dimension factory could not be opened at this time, and he could not summon more troops, Han Technician was not nervous at all. The weapons of mechanics were all built by themselves, so they could not use the inventory. Thus, they could just use the materials on the ground to make whatever they lacked. There was nothing to panic about. Having a strong hands-on ability, this was how confident he was. Of the 6 opponents, 2 were pugilists, 1 was a mage, and 3 were psychics. They were all ordinary beyond grade, as with energy ranks below 52,000 ona. As soon as the 2 sides clashed, the 5 beyond grade as immediately fell into a disadvantage. Even if Farlight hurried back to the battlefield, he could not reverse the situation and could only bitterly hold on. With the attribute bonus of the level 340 promotion, coupled with the explosive output of legendary battle technique, and fearless heart, ordinary beyond grade as would be courting death if they tried to take the attacks head-on. Furthermore, there was another peak beyond grade, a Kasui beside him. Facing these ordinary life forms, his psychic power could finally display its full lethality. With the 2 of them working together, it was really easy to beat up 6 ordinary beyond grade as. However, there were at least 6 of them. Although they were not a match for Han Xiao and Kasui, it would not be a problem for them to hold on for a while. Furthermore, the 2 of them did not know what was going on here and did not intend to kill anyone for the time being. While using psychic needles to cause the opponents to bleed, Kasui communicated with Han Xiao through the psychic channel. Black Star, we're not in our strongest state right now. There's still a peak beyond grade A outside the secondary dimension. If he joins the battle, the situation will not be good. There's no need for us to continue fighting. Let's leave this place first and ask for more information. That's what I think too. Let me get rid of them. Han Xiao nodded. He was very concerned about the information revealed by these people. Currently, he only wanted to figure out the current situation. With a thought, his mechanical force pulled all the mechanical soldiers together and gathered them together. Clank! The all-powerful mechanical deity descended once again. It extended its arm and grabbed Kasui, sucking him into the body. Then, its thrusters fired, and its huge body rose into the air, quickly approaching outer space. Farlight shouted, as if telling the 2 of them not to run. He led the 5 beyond grade as and chased after them. Pugilist flames, psychic attacks, and magical waves continuously bombarded the mechanical deity, but they were all blocked by the honeycomb structure psionic shield of the Emperor's robe. Still chasing? These people really don't know what's going on. They lack love. Han Xiao looked down and helplessly raised the celestial punishment edge. The surging psionic energy followed the path of the Geta Hadakan and condensed on the edge of the blade. He then slashed down with the blade, creating a solid blade glow. Screech! The dark blue blade glow tore the sky apart, and the sound of space cracking could be heard. The power of this blade caused the expressions of Farlight and the others to change drastically. They hurriedly used their strongest defensive means to collide with the blade glow. Rumble! Violent energy shockwaves spread out, dispersing the nearby atmosphere and turning it into an area without cloud. Ah! The screams quickly faded away. Farlight and the others were slashed down and smashed into the ground. A large number of tall buildings collapsed. Looking down from outer space, it was as if 6 mushroom clouds made of dust had grown on the surface of the earth. You didn't kill them, did you? Kasui was worried. I haven't used any strength yet. How can such an attack kill them? Han Xiao did not care. Kasui rolled his eyes. He finally understood what was going on. Black Star had clearly improved again, but he was purposely hiding it here. Did he think that he was blind? The mechanical deity turned around and flew across the starry sky, quickly leaving this planet. At this time, Farlight and the others crawled out of the ruins on the ground, all of them injured. Seeing the group of mechanical deities disappear from their sight, they could not help but feel a lingering fear. That slash just now made them feel an extremely terrifying threat to their lives, and they almost thought they were going to die. The few of them looked around and saw that the galactic city they were guarding was already in a mess. Everyone could not help but feel a burst of anger. What do we do now? Someone asked. Those 2 are supreme experts. They're not people we can deal with, Farlight said angrily. Farlight angrily said, "The appearance of these two is too strange. I suspect that they will interfere with the world reboot plan. Immediately report to the Celestial Star Alliance Superpower Security Department and ask them to send a hunting team and issue a universal warrant." Secondary dimensions were strange and had their own rules of operation. However, this secondary dimension's environment was extremely similar to the main universe's. It was also full of stars, seemingly endless. Even in the secondary dimension world, this was an extremely rare situation. Although this dimension was a cosmic environment, the star map of the main universe was not applicable here. After Han Shao controlled the mechanical deity to leave the planet, he used the parts and materials of the mechanical soldiers to build an astronomical observatory. He drew a star map of the surroundings on the spot and found a meteorite belt, so he made a detour and temporarily stopped there. Very soon, the meteorite belt appeared in front of him. Han Shao disassembled the mechanical deity and restored the mechanical army to guard the surroundings. He then boarded one of the meteorites with Kasui to discuss the next countermeasures. This secondary dimension is ridiculously large. I don't know where the end is. I can't find the spatial wall of the dimension. What about you? Kasui frowned. Same for me. This is just like a normal universe. Han Shao spread his hands. Kasui paced and pondered. Could it be that this secondary dimension is actually a giant wormhole that transferred us to an unexplored universe not controlled by the three universal civilizations? Could it be that what we met just now was a civilization in another corner of the universe? I don't think so. Han Shao shook his head. The connection to the void dimension is broken, and my dimension factory can't be opened. This characteristic doesn't seem like we've returned to the main universe. That's true. Kasui suddenly thought of something. Your dimension factory can't be opened? Then you won't be able to take out the king mechanical suit. Won't we be trapped here? You don't have to worry about that. Han Shao picked up the compressed orb necklace on his neck, then showed his bracelet and smiled. I'm used to carrying a spare king mechanical suit with me. There are a few sets here, and they can all be teleported to the outside world. Devices such as the spacetime stabilization anchor could restrain the secondary dimensional army box, so he naturally would not be unprepared. Some of the more crucial devices would be made into compressed orbs and carried on his body. Then I'm relieved. Kasui heaved a sigh of relief. It was not that he wanted to leave now, but he was worried that there was no way out. Seeing how reliable Han Shao was, he felt a lot more at ease. By the way, this secondary dimension seems to be completely isolated from the outside world. I can't contact my main artificial intelligence through the quantum network, Han Shao said. Philip's mainframe was in the base. Ever since entering this secondary dimension, the connection had been cut off. Han Shao could not connect to the quantum network of the explored universe, so he could only switch to a backup subbody of Philip that he carried with him and use it as a local network. At the same time, he was temporarily unable to lock onto the Lord's avatar in the outside world and could not use Lord's descent to return his consciousness to the outside world. Now that he had opened the quantum network, he could only connect to the quantum network in this secondary dimension. He had tried it during the battle earlier and found that the basic coding language of the quantum network in this dimension was different from the main universe. Just like the virtual mutiny virus, he had to decipher the basic coding first before he could use his various virtual method. By the way, how's your sensing of the god's trait transformation opportunity? Han Shao asked curiously. Kasui helplessly said, It's still there, but it's become blurry. The target of my sensing is the entire space, and there's no exact direction. That's not good. Without your sensing guidance, how are we going to find it in such a huge secondary dimension? Han Shao shook his head. If the sensing was still there, it would be easy. They could just follow the guidance and get the opportunity, and then use the king to escape. But now that there was no direction, it was much more troublesome. We can only look for it slowly. Kasui looked at Han Xiao hopefully. You don't have anything else to do, right? I don't have anything to do. I can accompany you for a while, but if we don't find it after a long time, I can only leave first. Han Xiao shrugged. He did not have to worry about the Players' Pro League, and he had a lot of time. Not only did he plan to complete Kasui's mission, but he also planned to obtain some technology here. Back then, the Kundi race's spacetime splicing technology was very useful. The civilization in this secondary dimension might have some black technology. By the way, speaking of the players, Han Xiaoxin opened the forums and found that the functions were normal. He could still see the posts of the players. Currently, all kinds of external communication had failed, and the forums had become the only channel to receive information from the outside world. It was reliable. Kasui paced back and forth and pondered. Black Star, what's your plan next? Han Xiao glanced at him, thought for a while, and said, We don't know much about this secondary dimension yet. We still don't know the situation of this secondary dimension. I suggest that we treat it as another universe. We are outsiders, and our priority is to collect information. How about this? Give me some time to decipher the compiled language of the quantum network of this space, then invade the network to collect information. Before that, we need a temporary star map. I'll just draw it, and the astronomical observatory can solve this problem. Also, the danger level of this space is unknown. I have to expand the current mechanical army, find some resource planets to build temporary strongholds, make engineering equipment to collect various materials, and build a new assembly line for explosive troops. Han Xiao explained the plan in detail, and everything was arranged in an orderly manner. Since the dimension factory was frozen, he planned to open a base in this secondary dimension and duplicate a military factory to solve the combat, logistics, detection, concealment, and so on simultaneously. After listening for a long time, Kasui could not help but ask, Then, what do I need to do? You. Han Xiao pinched his chin and sized Kasui up. After pondering for a few seconds, he said with certainty, Just don't cause trouble. Hearing this, Kasui could not help but smile bitterly. It was no wonder that among the 5 superclasses, the advanced civilizations were most afraid of the mechanic class. This was a mobile interstellar war system. He could not help but be glad that he had brought along a mechanic this time. If he had brought along a pugilist who only knew how to beat people, they could only stare at each other. The pugilist class was indeed weak. In a metal mechanical room, a man with tubes all over his body slowly opened his eyes. He had 2 pairs of green eyes, one big and one small, symmetrically distributed on his left and right side. A vertical scar ran across the left side of his face, cutting open 2 eyeballs. Half of his face was blind. His breathing was sticky like an old bellows. After a while, a low murmur sounded in the room, vague and unclear. Finally, another outsider has come. This time, it's best if the person is of some use. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.